From Jill Scott's football coach giving up his weeknights to train her, to giving her tactics that will last a career. From making a young girl believe she can, to a debut. From playing for her country, to winning the big one on home soil, to...
Jill Scott was today made an MBE.
A little support can change the game. Win the chance to meet Jill, plus daily football match tickets. Cadbury game-changing wins. Grab a pack to enter.
T's and C's apply. UK and ROI 18+. Visit gamechanging.cadbury.co.uk to enter and for full T's and C's and price details. MPN for ROI.
Get the new Google Pixel 9a on EE and save a massive £384. Now with Add Me.
What? Add you?
Well, no, not me, but Add Me lets you add everyone to the picture.
Even the person taking it.
Perfect for the family get-together.
That's right. Plus, save even more when you trade in.
Right, squeeze in, everyone.
All on the UK's best network.
Introductory saving ends 29th of May. Savings across contract. Trading value dependent on device. Eligibility, credit check and terms apply. Credit by EE Limited. Verify best network at ee.co.uk/claims.
Welcome on board Avanti West Coast Standard Premium.
With space to just be. Space to relax with roomier seats and extra legroom. Space on your guaranteed table to read, breathe and let go. Until your stop, obviously. Get from A to Zen in Standard Premium. Book now for a more spacious journey on avantiwestcoast.co.uk/standard premium. Premium. T's and C's apply.
The Clyde One Super Scoreboard Podcast with Trywire.com. Kick high prices to the curb. Drive away with huge savings. It's Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Good afternoon and welcome to Clyde One Super Scoreboard live from Hampden on Scottish Cup final day. Celtic are treble hunting once again, going for their 6th in 8 seasons and the 3rd under Brendan Rodgers. For Aberdeen, it was a season that started so brightly and then fell away. Jimmy Talleen is out to win silverware in his first year at the club. It's the oldest trophy in world football. Will it be wearing red ribbons or green ribbons come the end of the day? We will find out throughout the course of the afternoon. I'm Gordon Duncan, and joining me at the National Stadium is Gordon Dalziel and Mark Wilson.
Well, what a day we have ahead. The final day in Scotland, the Scottish Cup final, one that everybody wants to be involved in. And if you're Aberdeen, there's something to salvage from this season. It started so well for them and it ended poorly in the league, but they can still end with silverware. And for Celtic, all conquering once again, another historic treble just beckoning around the corner, all set up for a cracker today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've got to say, I'm looking out here onto the Hampden pitch. It's the best I've ever seen it. We've been here for many a Scottish Cup final. It's absolutely brilliant. Aberdeen come down here with hope. Celtic come with bags of confidence. I don't know many people that can make a case for Aberdeen. The only thing I will say is it's a cup final and anything can happen in finals.
Yes, we're very much looking forward to it at the National Stadium, holding the fort back at the Clyde One Super Scoreboard studio. A man who's seen more Scottish Cup finals than anyone is Mr. Hugh Keevins.
Well, in my opinion, Gordon, Celtic would need to drop well below their own commendably high standards to lose this cup final today, and Aberdeen would need to rise above their gradually declining standards to beat Brendan Rodgers' team. Either way, it's a final that'll be set in stone. Brendan Rodgers says he wants his players to etch their names into the concrete. Jimmy Talleen needs his team to put the granite back into the granite city. And history will come in all shapes and forms at Hampden. If Celtic win, Brendan Rodgers becomes the first manager in the club's 137-year existence to win 3 trebles, and Celtic win a world record-breaking 9th treble into the bargain. Or do Aberdeen win the cup and end a 35-year hoodoo in finals? We are all of us now history's witnesses, one way or another.
I'm keeping Hugh Keevins company as Allan. Scott, it's always one of the best days in the Scottish football calendar. How much are you looking forward to this one?
Yeah, really looking forward to the showpiece final. Listen, I think looking at Aberdeen, they're going to need the perfect performance to get anything from this Celtic side today. Obviously, you look at the games they've played throughout the season, I think they've conceded 19 goals to this Celtic side, so they will have a bit of trepidation in there. But like the Dazzler says, it's a cup final and anything can happen, but they're going to have to be at least perfect for me to get something from Celtic.
Now, we spend every single week on this show debating who will play and who will not play in various games across the season. It all comes down to this, the showpiece event of the Scottish football calendar. So let's see what big decisions have been made. Gabriel has the teams.
Yes, Gordon, huge news coming from the Hampden changing rooms. Jimmy Talleen appears to have rolled the dice for Aberdeen with what looks like a back five. Now, after consecutive 5-1 defeats to Celtic and no wins against Brendan Rodgers' side in 5 attempts this season, you can understand why he feels he has to try something different. He makes 4 changes to the side that missed out on 4th place with defeat at Tannadice last week. Tobers and Gay drop to the bench. McGrath and Ockles miss out altogether. In come 3 defenders, Milne, Devlin and Dorrington, whilst Keskinen will be up top. So it looks like it's Dimitar Mitov in goal, a defence of Nicky Devlin, Jack Milne, Mats Noster, Alfie Dorrington and Alexander Jensen. Captain Graham Shinney looks set to play in midfield with Leighton Clarkson and Ante Palaversa, and Topi Keskinen will play just off Kevin Nisbet up top. Substitutes for the Dons: Duhan, McKenzie, Polvara, Dabag, Gay, Morris, Tobers and Boyd. Well, it's the complete opposite for the holders. Rodgers keeps the exact 11 that lifted the Premiership against St Mirren 7 days ago following the 1-1 draw at Celtic Park. Reo Hatate, of course, remains out injured. James Forrest has to settle for a place on the bench. So it'll be Kasper Schmeichel in goal, a defence of Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales and Greg Taylor. Captain Callum McGregor is joined in midfield by Arne Engels and Paolo Bernardo, who's preferred to Luke McCowan. Nicholas Kuhn is on one wing, Dazen Maida on the other. Adam Eder will play through the middle. The substitutes today: Sinisalo, Trusty, Yang, McCowan, Schlupp, Kenny, Forrest and Ralston.
Mark Wilson, any surprise for you that Celtic have gone with that same team and made no changes from Trophy Day at Celtic Park last weekend?
If I'm being totally honest, yeah, a little surprised, because I said last week when we watched James Forrest come on and light up Celtic Park with not only his goal, his performance, thought he'd changed the way Celtic were playing. And then backed up on Thursday, I thought they'd change it again. I thought Maeda would go through the middle, Forrest would go to the left, and then you'd have Nicholas Kuhn. He is stuck with the team. He's stuck faith and Adam Eder to lead the line again. The only other decision, Gordon, for me was that midfield area. Was it going to be Bernardo or was McCowan going to be given his chance on the biggest stage? He's went with what I thought with Bernardo, but the front line's a big call. James Forrest is a player in form, but he's been left on the bench.
Yeah, listen, I backed Mark up on Thursday. I thought Forrest really played his way into this cup final. Not in fact he come on against St Mirren and was absolutely brilliant, got his goal, full of confidence. The prior to that up at Pittodrie, I think he caused them all sorts of problems. But Matt said there about the informed James Forrest. He does scoring goals. Let's not get away from that. Maeda will definitely play. So it was a matter of Kuhn, playing off the right-hand side. He's got the luxury now that he knows that Forrest can come on here and change this game. So it could have went either way. So it's a very, very strong Celtic starting 11. You've got to say it's probably their best one. I always thought Bernardo would start this cup final.
Look, there's a fairy tale element to everything James Forrest is doing at the moment, Hugh, but at the same time, this probably does still remain Celtic's strongest team at the moment in the eyes of Brendan Rodgers, in the absence of Reo Hatate, in the absence of Jota. It doesn't go down as a huge surprise, does it?
It doesn't, not for me. The team who started against St Mirren last Saturday will be the team who starts against Aberdeen, but the team who started against St Mirren went from bad to worse, and it was the introduction of James Forrest that turned negativity into positivity, because he changed the whole complexion of the afternoon. Celtic were 1 down, the minutes were running out on them, and the title party day was going to end in an anticlimax. St Mirren were going to win 1-0, and then James Forrest came on and struck. So today he has the potential again to change negativity to positivity, or to be part of a grandstand finale for Celtic, because you mentioned fairy tales, Gordon. There are fairy tales everywhere you look. The manager enters Celtic folklore as the only one ever to win 3 trebles. The club break a world record if they win and get a 9th treble. So fairy tales everywhere, and room for a fairy tale finish for James Forrest as well.
I suppose, Scott Allan, though, Celtic's form it is reflected in their team in many ways, and that they don't arrive, and we're going to speak about Aberdeen in a second, but they don't arrive into cup final having to make wholesale changes, having to scramble around for something that's been missing in recent weeks. This is just a continuation for Brendan Rodgers of what they've been doing all season.
Yeah, it is, and I think he trusts in the squad this season. I think that's one of the biggest improvements with a Celtic squad, was guys coming in and out of the team and having an impact. Well, obviously we've seen that with James Forrest over the last few weeks, a guy obviously I know really well, and listen, seen him score that goal last week, that as Hugh touched on, he did change the game. But I think in terms of looking at Kuhn, if you just take the full season in terms of how his numbers are, they've been really good for Celtic. You can't argue with the numbers, and Maeda obviously the standout player in the league domestically. So I think James Forrest will have a part to play, but Brendan Rodgers fully trusts the team that he's put out to start.
By contrast, Mark, for various reasons that we'll get to, Aberdeen arrive here having to bounce back from poor form, having to find a solution to a Celtic problem that they've not been able to find in recent weeks. They've changed their formation and gone 3 at the back. They've made multiple changes to the team, so the opposite of what we said with Celtic. Celtic's form and everything they've got going into this allows them to stay the same. It's not the same for Aberdeen though.
It's certainly not a mindset or the form you want to come into a cup final where you are changing personnel and formation. Now, they've done it all season. They've chopped and changed. They had a settled system at the beginning of the season that got them so much success. But injuries arose and they had to chop and change a few things. That's fine. But coming into the post-split fixtures, it's all been a wee bit all over the place from an Aberdeen point of view. And Jimmy Phelan, I've no doubt, since Tannadice last week, would have had a lot of things running through his mind. Does he stick with that 4-2-3-1 and try and get the best out of his players on the day, or does he look at the opposition and what is the threat, what is their main threats, and where does their main threats come from? And I think that's why he's went with the 5, just to give a bit of support. You've got a couple of centre backs either side of the obviously central centre back, and the wing backs can take care of Celtic's wide players. The interesting one for me will be the midfield battle between the 3 of Celtic and the 3 of Aberdeen, just with those 2 strikers, Nesbitt leading the line and one just popping off him. An interesting change, but if I'm being honest, I think the right one in this big pitch.
Do you know what, Gordon? Graham Shinney's situation maybe sums this up as well, because you sort of know the story. Started out as a left back, then really carved out a career at Aberdeen as a midfielder, had gone back to left back this season, and then James Forrest goes up there last week. It's a second string Celtic team, gives him a really tough time, and he's back in midfield today.
Midfield all day long for me. He's not got the legs now for to play left back, especially against a speedy winger. I totally agree with the Aberdeen manager this afternoon. I wouldn't fault him for his lineup. I wouldn't fault him for his tactics. I think he's right to change it. If he sticks with that normal formation, Celtic will come out here and blow them away. Everybody knows that. So he had to change something. I like the 5 at the back. You can go and be really positive, put your 2 wing backs high up the pitch if you've got the ball, but it stops the wide areas. And then Mark touched on it crucially in the middle of the park, where Celtic have got 3 brilliant players, creative players that can cut you open and change a cup final in seconds. He's got to combat that. I like the way he's went about this afternoon.
Hugh, we spoke at length last night on the show, of course, about Aberdeen's chances, and I think we stripped it back to these things can happen, and that was probably about it.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, you are dealing with a situation whereby Aberdeen haven't won the Scottish Cup for 35 years. They are 39 points behind Celtic in the league table, conceded 19 goals against Celtic this season. They would be improbable winners, and I'm trying to look for words that are not disrespectful or dismissive, because I felt that some of the Celtic supporters on the programme last night were both of those things. A man saying that he would be upset if Celtic were not 5 up at half-time. That simply will not happen, but I do respect the Dazzler's opinion that the 5 at the back is the right thing to do to safeguard against an early setback. If Celtic were to score early, you would really fear for Aberdeen.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, Allan, the counter argument that I sort of tried to offer last night because of the overwhelming Celtic predictions and the strength of them is that this is still the 5th best team in the country. Now, I know we all expect Celtic to win, and of course they're favourites and all that sort of stuff. I feel like at times we were in danger of acting like this was a complete and utter mismatch with 2 teams from different divisions. It is clearly not the case.
I wouldn't say it was the case, but their form hasn't been great of late. I think looking at that, obviously changing to the back five. Listen, for me, the way Celtic play, they will naturally force you back. They'll have control of the ball. It then becomes what Aberdeen are going to be like when they do get possession of the ball, because when it is going up to Nisbet, he's going to have to get the ball under control and allow his team to get up the pitch. This is where it then becomes difficult with the five at the back, and that will be if you don't look after the ball when it goes up to Nisbet, it will be constant waves of attack for Celtic, whether you get the five at the back or not, because most weeks Celtic force teams into that shape anyway.
Well, let's talk about history, Mark, because Celtic are going for their 6th treble in 8 seasons. It would be a 3rd under Brendan Rodgers. It is an unprecedented period of success that the club is having. How much does that help? How much does that give you comfort and belief and confidence when you come here? And how much is it actually irrelevant because the past doesn't help you when you go out and run out for 90 minutes?
Well, of course it doesn't, because you never know which way the game's going to unfold right in front of you. But I think it helps you in the build-up, the immediate build-up, where you're comfortable in your surroundings. You've been here, you've done it before. Of course, the players will be nervous because they know what's at stake, but they'll be more adept at dealing with it than the Aberdeen players. I mean, going for another treble, it is remarkable. I was at the club for 6.5 years. I wasn't involved in one treble hunt at that time. It was an achievement that we got the double. I mean, even my time before at Dundee United, when I was playing against Celtic, they maybe done once, twice, something like that. But this period of dominance is quite remarkable, and it's testament to the managers who drive that standard on with the players, and obviously the captain who has to take in the new players and obviously ingrain what the club is to get them to this stage every single year. It's remarkable in cup football to go all those ties and not slip up once. You know, you can underperform and somebody can just do you in a split second. Celtic have negotiated time and time, year after year, these ties to get to this stage.
You do wonder, Gordon, what it's like whether we are seeing the strength of that record sort of accumulating over time, because, you know, if we're talking about when Mark played there before, like, Celtic were still the best or one of the best teams in the country, but there was a feeling that maybe you could get them when you come here. Ross County did it, and Hearts did it, and there was just a feeling. Kilmarnock did it. We had Cammy Bell on the show last night. You just don't get that feeling anymore. That's not to say it can't happen, because at some point somebody will beat them. You just don't have that feeling though at the moment.
Yeah, because every time we come here to witness Celtic playing at Hampden, especially under Brendan Rodgers, they look like it's their second home. It is their second home. Brendan Rodgers never lost here. They look comfortable. They know how to play the pitch. It's a big, big pitch. They know how to move people about. Look, to win trebles, Mark's right. Celtic fans just take it as a given now, like, we'll go and win another treble. Cup football is the hardest football. It's okay in the league. You can lose a league game and you can make that up and still win the league by so many points. You lose a cup game, you've not got another crack at it. And it shows you the strength of Celtic that they're now going for another treble.
I mean, again, I can't state how remarkable it is. You think of those great players that have been at this club, especially in the early 2000s, and they came undone in some stage. But I think the mentality of this group is so strong and hard to defeat, never mind their ability, that it becomes, that's why we're all talking about it's almost impossible for Aberdeen. But I will go back to my first Scottish Cup final here for Dundee United, 2005 against Celtic. Now, they had some great players in that game. They eventually won the game. It was a day like this, it was raining, it wasn't a perfect final. But what we did is we lost a goal early on, and we managed to hang in the game and take it down to the last 5-10 minutes, and we hit the bar and we were almost there. Things like that can happen. Celtic won the cup that day, but if Aberdeen have got any chance, if they do concede early, it's about hanging in the game and hoping to get that one opportunity to take it to extra time.
Aberdeen are first out to warm up, led out by captain Graham Shinnie, of course. We've spoken already about him in terms of where he will play on the pitch today, back in midfield. We've seen him there many times, but he had been playing at left back in recent times. Of course, was a member of the Inverness Cally Thistle team that won the Scottish Cup 10 years ago. How does that make you feel, Hugh Keevins? Were you not here? Were you not with us? I feel like I remember it. Absolutely. 10 years ago.
Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, I've just listened to your conversation there about the subject of history. Celtic like to think that they are synonymous with the creation of history. The club, the supporters, the players. And this week we've seen some outstanding achievements. Ange Postecoglou, former Celtic manager, wins the Europa League against all odds. Billy Gilmour and Scott McTominay win the Scudetto with Napoli. Two Scots in a team to win that title against all odds there with that one. Aberdeen will think today, well, maybe against all odds we could do it, but Celtic, thinking that they are synonymous with history, would cherish 9 trebles, a world record. And Brendan Rodgers, we are all prone to ego, all of us. Brendan Rodgers would dearly love to be the first Celtic manager ever in 137 years to win 3 trebles. All about history today.
Yeah, that's the incentive for Brendan Rodgers. The rain is coming down here at Hampden, as Mark alluded to. I know it's been a mixed bag over the years. You tend to associate Scottish Cup final day with a nice blue sky and sun shining, but far from it. The pitch actually looks quite wet as a result, believe it or not, how quickly it's come down. And that noise you can hear is because Celtic have entered the field of play for their warm-up. Captain Callum McGregor leading them out. He's got 6 Scottish Cups to his name. He'll be looking to add 1 more this afternoon. We're going to hear from both managers when we return.
Just a quick word from our podcast sponsors, Wire, the best way to own an electric vehicle. Wire is a car purchasing platform that only sells 100% electric vehicles. So they'll walk you through the process of selecting a fully electric car that meets both your needs and your desires. Wire prove that virtually every car buyer can go electric today. They've got affordable options, saving you thousands on your next car through the Salary Boost scheme. This scheme makes purchasing an electric vehicle a sensible financial decision. Make sure you check out trywire.com for more information and how you can sign up. Now let's get back to the podcast.
From Jill Scott's football coach giving up his weeknights to train her, to giving her tactics that will last a career. From making a young girl believe she can, to a debut. From playing for her country, to winning the big one on home soil, to...
Jill Scott was today made an MBE.
A little support can change the game. Win the chance to meet Jill, plus daily football match tickets. Cadbury game-changing wins. Grab a pack to enter.
T's and C's apply. UK and ROI 18+. Visit gamechanging.cadbury.co.uk to enter and for full T's and C's and price details. MPN for ROI.
A Rayo original podcast.
All right, I'm Pete Wicks, and we live in a world full of men. But what makes a good man? What makes a bad one? Pete Wicks Man-Made is the new podcast where me and my guests dive into modern masculinity, whatever that is. Join me, Tom Grennan, and more.
I was wanting to, be the man of the house with truth, I can barely hang a picture up on the wall. Do you know what I mean?
Listen to Pete Wicks Man-Made now on the Rayo app, Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Scottish football's league leader. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Yes, welcome back to Hampden in the rain on Scottish Cup final day. Aberdeen and Celtic both out warming up ahead of the big one here at the National Stadium. Of course, Celtic coming with all the expectation and the favourites tag. Aberdeen looking to upset that and land their first Scottish Cup since 1990. It's going to be a fascinating afternoon for the players involved, but what about the managers? 2 very different sets of circumstances, as Hugh Keevins alluded to earlier on in the show. Brendan Rodgers is going for his 3rd treble as his Celtic manager. For Jimmy Tulane, it would cap off a very up and down first season as an Aberdeen boss. We were even talking about them potentially splitting the old firm, or maybe even, for the dreamers out there, winning the league in September, October. Needless to say, that did not sustain, and in fact it was a 5th place finish in the end. But what a different complexion this season would have on it for Aberdeen if they could lift that famous old trophy today. Let's hear from Brendan Rodgers then. It's the T words on everyone's lips, the treble. Here's what he had to say.
We set out nearly 11 months ago with the objective to win the 3 domestic trophies, and we've won 2, and we have 1 more game to do the 3rd one. So that there, alongside our progression in Europe, it would end what would be a brilliant season for us. So now what the expectation is, it's incredible really how that has transpired really to be, the norm as such that you're sitting declaring that your trebles is what we want to achieve. But we can't be frightened of that either. So the players have the chance to etch their names into the concrete. And it never gets taken away from them. Once you've done that, then you have that possibility to do it. So it's something that we relish that.
That's the soundbite, Hugh Keevins. If I was a betting man, if I was allowed to gamble responsibly in aid of Cash for Kids, I would say that'll appear in your Sunday Mail column at some point. Etch their names into the concrete, one way or the other.
Well, he'll need to win before it's a viable addition. You don't want to etch your name into the concrete by blowing the chance to create a world record and to make history and enter Celtic's folklore. So they will etch their names into the concrete if they win, and that is the challenge. But Brendan Rodgers has been an outstanding manager for Celtic. The episode when he left for Leicester City cast a shadow over him, but he came back and was just as good the second time around. He will want very much to say, I am the only Celtic manager ever to have won 3 trebles, and who could deny him the right to say that out loud? But he's got to beat Aberdeen first.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Allan, you saw what it was like when Brendan Rodgers came in the early stages. I mean, I'm sure you were impressed and you were struck with the credentials he came with, but still, to go on and be staring at this level of success is quite something.
It really is. I think what he's done with Celtic this season compared to last season is he's made the group a lot stronger. There's a lot more competition for places. The thing that really stuck out for me when he arrived at Celtic was we went in pre-season to Slovenia, and I think I've said to you before, Gordon, he came in and he had a list of all sorts of records throughout Celtic over the years, and he asked us to go away in groups and write down what ones we thought were going to be achievable, and he then went on to do the Invincible season. So, and I remember at the time when we got the sheet of paper, a few boys obviously snagging as if, we're never going to do that, or we're not going to beat that goal record, and here we are now looking up and making history once more. So incredible job he's done at Celtic.
Did Tony Mowbray ever ask you and your teammates to write down what history you thought you could make?
We made all the wrong history, I think, under Tony Mowbray. But incredible. I love managers that back themselves, and we've seen the biggest one with Postecoglou, of course. But I've got to take you back to when Brendan Rodgers arrived on the steps of Celtic Park for the second time and says, I'll see you back here in May. That is backing yourself, and Scott will know him, much better than I would. But he backs himself and he backs his players at every turn. And when you do that and you get that belief in your dressing room and you as a manager, quite often you get the right outcome. And once again, he's got them over the line in the League Cup, and he's got an incredible opportunity here, as Hugh keeps saying, to write him personally, into the history books along with this great group of players.
Where he can take a lot of pride in the fact that he's going for an hour treble is the biggest thing I see him as a manager, he improves players for me. Every player improves. You look at Matt O'Reilly, for instance, he turned him into a £25 million player in one season. So he's got that knack about him. He's never lost here. He knows how to get the job done. He believes in his players. He will be so confident this afternoon. But I keep going back to it. I'm not backing Aberdeen here by any marks and means. I just think cup finals, anything can happen.
It's a very different feeling, I'm sure, for Jimmy Talleen, but nevertheless, he is staring at a history-making day in his own right. Let's hear from the Aberdeen manager.
Football is an incredible sport. It's not every year you're on the final. I think it was 7 years last time we were in the Scottish Cup final, and it's always trying to enjoy this moment, to try to catch this moment. It's a final. Of course, we learn things from that game. But it's also a final. It's a different kind of game than in the league. And when you feel the spirit among the players that also want looking forward to the game, and you can feel the belief among the players. So that's in the past. Now it's the final, the only thing we can see in front of us.
In many ways, Mark Wilson, Aberdeen need this today. They need this to be definitive, because they win this. This is a sensational season. That's the way football works. If they don't win it, that's when the question marks would come around. They started so well, you'll all remember. We genuinely had the discussions about, could they split the Old Firm? Could they even win the league? I appreciate it was a bit pie in the sky at the time. Since the 10th of November, we're talking here, that's still quite early in the season. Aberdeen have the worst record in the entire top flight since the 10th of November. However, win a Scottish Cup today, combine that with a 5th place finish, and that actually is a brilliant first season for Jimmy Talleen.
Oh, without doubt. And those are the fine margins that Aberdeen and Jimmy Thelin especially are dealing with, because it was a remarkable start. When Aberdeen went to Celtic Park and fell 2 behind at half-time and came out and really took the game to Celtic, I thought we were witnessing something special, and a manager who had the right principles, who'd installed the right message within his team and was compiling a squad of players that knew their jobs. Now, I touched on it earlier, he might have got 1 or 2 injuries that started to derail the rhythm of his side, but they fell to pieces. There's no doubt about that. A large part of the season they fell to pieces. They regrouped and got together. Remember, they got to the semi-final here in the League Cup as well and came up against an unbelievable Celtic side. So in terms of success, that was relative success, although they took a real beating here. But then to regain the form and let it slip again, you can see why the Aberdeen fans are getting a bit tetchy. They always had this to hang on to, and look, if they walk out of Hampden today with the Scottish Cup, I think the Aberdeen fans forget about what happened from November onwards. I think they see this as a remarkable season for a manager making his debut season.
I think if Aberdeen have any chance of winning this game this afternoon, they've got to forget about what's happened in November anyway. This is a one-off. Yeah. The manager's got to go around his players in this dressing room and hope that he can see belief in his players to go out there and win a cup final.
And that might be the challenge, because maybe it's harder to have belief when you lose your last 4 league games in a row and drop to 5th. However, to look at it slightly differently, had Aberdeen won those last 4 games, you would all 100% still be predicting a Celtic win 100%. Anyway. So you wonder if, in a roundabout way, and maybe I'm clutching at straws from an Aberdeen perspective, it really does just free you up to give it everything you've got, take the shackles off and see what happens.
Look, I was involved in one of the biggest underdog games ever against a Celtic team full of massive talent.
And the great thing is, you don't mention it that much.
No,
either.
No.
And, by the way, just beside us is Simon Donnelly, and I was with Simon last night. He said that was his worst moment in football. He's standing literally 5 yards away from him.
Because I was there. But you get as an underdog, nobody gives you a chance. The only people that are really hoping and praying for you is your own supporters. And that'll be the same with Aberdeen. They're coming down here, and as I said in the intro, it's hope more than anything else. Celtic fans are coming here saying, how many is it going to be? We're going to celebrate. Cup finals do not work like that. I still think Celtic are massive favourites, but games can go anyway.
It's a good point. It must be murder for Aberdeen, because even Hibs are desperate for Celtic to win, because it gives them a leg up in Europe and is worth about 5 or 6 million quid to them. So yeah, maybe it is only the Aberdeen fans. Although I'm sure there's one half of Glasgow that wouldn't mind seeing that. But
I think there'll be
a decision that would be, though, if you were a Rangers fan. They don't like Aberdeen much either. But anyway, we can leave that for another time. Yeah, I mean, the conditions here are not dreadful. Not you wonder, Mark, that maybe helps things. The pitch just a bit slicker. I was going to say,
I'd rather play in this, I think, with a wee bit of wetness on top than not having an ounce of rain for a month in Glasgow. I get that they would have watered it, but this is a roasting hot day. Even if you get the sprinklers out and water it just before kick-off, dries up really quick, and we would have witnessed probably a slow game. I think we'll see the ball moving around really quick.
What do I normally say in pitches like this?
It's a striker's dream.
It's a striker's dream. That's why we'll get goals this afternoon.
Well, funnily enough, the 2011 Scottish Cup final, which you claim you scored in, but you didn't, because it was clearly a Stephen Craigan own goal. It was very much like this, wasn't it? Well, miserable.
A wee bit wetter in this, and that's why I used the conditions to my advantage when I took that shot on just for the edge of the box here, and it went in, luckily for me. So a great memory, but it was, you know what, I was going into that, and we never expected in that game to come and it would be easy and run over Motherwell. Of course we knew that we had the better players, and of course we knew Celtic and we were the favourites, but we never took it for granted. And this team, the Celtic team, are better than that side. For me, no doubt about that, but I think their mentality is stronger as well. I don't think they take anything for granted, and that's the way it's going to have to be. They cannot get complacent, because any sign is a complacency and Aberdeen pounce in it, you can find yourself in a real sticky situation quickly.
See, if you're an Aberdeen player, do you really have to test your mental toughness, where you kind of block out the 6-0 here, you block out the 5-1 last week, you block out the previous 5-1, but you remember fine well when you drew to each at Celtic Park, and you try and cling on to maybe taking Celtic to penalties in the semi-final last season. Is that part of the psychology of a day like today, where you need to find the positives and almost ignore the bits that carry the scar tissue.
That's football in a nutshell, not just for today. So these Aberdeen players have probably been trying to manage that mindset throughout the last 3 months, and it's never quite kicked in. However, this is slightly different. You're right in pointing out this is a one-off. This is the last game of the season. You don't have to nurse injuries in the hope of making a game next week or anything like that. These players are on their holidays. Some of them will be away. Some of them, this will be their swan song for Aberdeen if they've been here for a year or a couple of years. So Jimmy Theline's message and Aberdeen staff will be, give everything you've got. Do not come off here and think I could have done something different or I could have gave a wee bit more. So that's the difference in this game. Blocking out loads of that negative stuff and just really going for it. But I think they would be right to refer back to the semi-final last year here when Mitov scored after 3 or 4 minutes, and right away you could see the game changing, and it was very difficult for Celtic, and Aberdeen done incredibly well that day. So maybe that's similar blueprint today.
I mean, I have to admit, I'd be really, really surprised if Mitov, the goalie who was at St Johnstone last season, got a goal.
Miowski.
That would be a story. But no, listen, I take the point, Gordon. That has to be it. Just almost clutching on to what you can if you're Aberdeen, because we've seen it very recently, and it was on Aberdeen's home patch. A second string Celtic went up there and won 5-1, so those are not good memories recently for Aberdeen.
For me, it's so important Aberdeen cannot lose the first goal, and they can't lose it early, or this is going to turn into an easy cup final for Celtic, because honestly I don't think Aberdeen will get the belief in them that if Celtic go 1-up that they can get back into the cup final. As long as they keep themselves in the final, that belief is still there, and they can think of themselves, we could get a chance, it could be a set play, it could be a wonder goal, it could be anything. That's why Jimmy Thelin is turned up here today, and he's changed his system. He's going to make it very difficult for Celtic. He's got to be compact, he's got to keep himself in this cup final as long as he can, and hope something breaks for him.
Okay, we're getting ever closer. Hampden is filling up, 28 minutes to go. We'll continue to build up next.
The winning team all season long. This is Clyde 1 Super Scoreboard. 15 minutes to go
until kick-off in the Scottish Cup final at Hampden. Aberdeen are just finishing off their warm-up. They're heading back in to a rapturous round of applause from the Red Army that have made their way down all in red. I know that might seem like an obvious thing to say, but I think there's been a clear deliberate attempt to all go in red to make that side look really striking to our left here at Hampden. So the warm-up is complete. Jimmy Thelin will offer some final words of wisdom, and then it is showtime. Celtic doing the same. Daisen Maeda, the last man to complete his warm-up. Mark Wilson, no surprise there, probably started warming up at 5 o'clock this morning.
Oh yeah, without doubt. It's going to be so important, isn't he? I mean, just an absolute machine for Celtic in terms of his pressing, his running power, everything that goes into that. But his goals have been absolutely huge this year for Celtic. So he's a big player, and these days you need your big players to turn up. Even teams like Celtic, who are overwhelming favourites, that's what Brendan Rodgers will hope for, that his main stars turn up on the big occasion.
That's the beauty as well of Scottish Cup final day. Hugh Keevins, yes, you might look at Daisen Maeda, he's hands down the best player in the country this season, but sometimes it's an unexpected hero. Everyone remembers Tom Rogic Day. He didn't even start the game. People forget that, but you never really know where the hero's going to come from on a day like this.
But that's what Aberdeen must cling to, that the law of averages kicks in after 35 years, or we really are in the season of the underdog. Newcastle win their first trophy for decades, the League Cup down south. Crystal Palace beat Manchester City and win the FA Cup. Ange Postecoglou wins a European trophy for Spurs while being 17th in the English Premier League. So Aberdeen have to cling to the abstracts, law of averages, year of the underdog, but Celtic cling to the hard facts of the matter, going for a world record 9th treble, going for Brendan Rodgers' 3rd treble, overwhelmingly the best football team in the country and have been for some time. All of that is on the line today, and Brendan Rodgers, I think, would be devastated if history was not on Celtic's side this afternoon.
Scott Allan, there is sometimes a school of thought which is that if you can stop Callum McGregor, that really takes a lot of the wind out of Celtic's sails. Is it as simple as that, or do they have too many other threats?
Yeah, I think Brendan Rodgers and his squad have worked past just being able to stop Callum McGregor and then not being able to play out. I think obviously with Aberdeen having the 5 at the back, there will be area for Celtic to play out with overload, which will then allow them to get up the pitch, and then they'll be looking for combinations to break down, which will most likely be a stubborn Aberdeen defence. For me, listen, Celtic are a well-oiled machine. For Aberdeen, it's got to get something out of the game. I spoke about at the top of the show, it's a turnover when they do win the ball back. How far are they going to be away from Kevin Nisbet? Is the ball going to stick with Kevin Nisbet? Can he bring someone else into the game to then allow them to get up the pitch and create chances for themselves? So tactically it will be interesting, but Aberdeen, for me, they have to start the game well, or if Celtic get an early goal, it could be curtains early doors.
I suppose that the worrying thing from an Aberdeen perspective, Hugh, and granted some of the examples I'm going to give here are against Rangers, which is different, but it's not like Celtic get it all their own way in these occasions. They've also shown that they can overcome adversity. Yes, there was the refereeing decision and so on, which we poured over, but they won the League Cup final here on penalties last season. This time last year, they certainly didn't have it all their own way, and Adam Ida pops up late. The aforementioned Tom Rogic goal, it's not necessarily that they turn up here and steamroll teams, but they do find a way to lift that trophy.
It is their dominant characteristic as a team. They thrive on overcoming adversity, on turning negativity into positivity. And today, they will also reflect on the stat that you brought us earlier, Gordon. I find it astonishing that since November 10, Aberdeen have won fewer league points than any other team in the Premiership, including the one who get relegated. So, I go back to my overwhelming thought about this final. If Celtic lose, then it's their fault, because the only team who can beat Celtic today is Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite something. They actually had the same points since Johnston in that time, but they'd played 2 games more.
Wow.
So it was an even more damning stat. But anyway, when you turn up the cup final day, I suppose, what you did or didn't do in December and January it is irrelevant, Gordon. It was just more to paint a picture on how much of a roller coaster this season's been.
Nobody in that Aberdeen dressing room will be looking at that stat. Nobody. And they're quite right. They've got to concentrate in the game ahead. The most important game, the Scottish Cup final. Mark touched on it. If they go up the road with the Scottish Cup this afternoon, it's been a brilliant season for them. So they're 90 or 90 plus minutes away from achieving that, but it's got to be difficult.
Well, Brendan Rodgers and Jimmy Tulane are offering their final words of motivation beneath us here in these famous old dressing rooms at Hampden. Will it have the desired effect? We will be back for kick-off next.
The team with the biggest support in Glasgow and the West. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
5 minutes to kick off at Hampden for Aberdeen against Celtic in the Scottish Cup final 2025. The pre-match displays are ready. The pyrotechnics are firing. Gordon Dalziel's eyebrows have been singed already, and it is almost time for the players to enter the field of play. Callum McGregor and Graham Shinney will lead the teams out. They're not quite ready yet. What's going through your mind as a player at this point in the day, Mark Wilson?
I think you're just concentrating on your job and hoping that everything goes well in the first 5 minutes. I know me as a fullback, I wanted an early touch of the ball and just to play the safe option. I didn't really want things going the other way. I wanted my side to, assume control of the game and then feel my way into it. And I'm sure these players will be doing the same. They'll be thinking, what's the manager told me? What's the team instructions? But more importantly, what is my role within that? And again, just hoping. I've been on both sides of that tunnel with Dundee United and with Celtic. Dundee United, I was hoping that the guy I was up against would have an off day, and most of their team did. And with Celtic again, I was hoping that the match winners within the team would stand up and be counted.
Now I know they're all good in their own way, but this feels like a proper cup final occasion. Of course Celtic are favourites, but let's not forget the fact this is one of our other biggest clubs. A 50-50 split to our right, green and white everywhere you look. with a 4-leaf clover on my breast, says the banner in the Celtic end. To our left, every single seat taken by a man, woman or child wearing red. They've come in huge numbers. They've backed their club. They got their 50% allocation and they have taken it. It looks magnificent. Let's hope the football match lives up to it. Don Robertson will be the man in the middle. He is just waiting for the final nod from TV broadcasters to let them know that it is showtime, and then we will get both sets of players out onto the Hampden pitch. And here they come, Jimmy Talleen and Brendan Rodgers, suited and booted, followed by their captains, their goalkeepers and the rest of the starting 11s. Gabriel will remind us of the teams.
For Aberdeen, it's Dimitar Mitov in goal. A back five of Nicky Devlin, Jack Milne, Mats Noster, Alfie Dorrington and Alexander Jensen. Captain Graham Shinnie moves back into midfield with Leighton Clarkson and Ante Palaversa. Topi Keskinen plays just off Kevin Nisbet. It's an unchanged side for Brendan Rodgers Celtic. Kasper Schmeichel in goal. Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales and Greg Taylor make up the back four. Captain Callum McGregor is at the base of midfield with Arne Engels and Paolo Bernardo either side of him. Nicholas Kuhn is on the right wing. Dyson Maeda is on the left. Adam Eder leads the line.
Gordon Dalziel, doesn't get much better than this. If you can't enjoy this set of circumstances, then this sport is probably not for you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this. I'm looking at the atmosphere. I'm looking at the surroundings. I'm looking at the players. They must be standing there. Their hearts must be going 100 miles an hour, just looking forward to getting this game started. As Mark tells you, this is the hardest bit. When you play in a cup final, you know, you just want to get everything off the pitch. You want to get up to your own end, get the game going, and as Mark quite rightly says, most important thing, get an early touch and make sure it's a good one.
Does this make you miss it, Mark Wilson?
Oh, every day. I mean, I'm just looking around here, and football's moved on so much in terms of fan interaction. There was none of this when I played here. You know, there were no tifos really. You know, now it's a battle between the fans to see who can add the most colour. And I look to the left, fair play to the Aberdeen fans, all in red. Tifo, outstanding. Celtic fans are used to this environment. Another outstanding tifo as well. Daz is right, the players looking up at that when they come out the tunnel, it'll be memories that last a lifetime for them.
Yeah, really an incredible display from both teams, incredibly staged, managed by those at the Scottish FA and for the Scottish Cup as well. They've done their part. It's now over to the players to try and deliver. We all know what's at stake. It's all built up to this. For Celtic, it's about making history. Another treble. They've made it the norm in recent seasons, going for a 6th in 9 seasons, a 9th treble overall. It has been an unprecedented period of domestic success. Brendan Rodgers has won 4 League Cups, 3 Scottish Cups. He's never lost at Hampden, and he's never lost in this competition at any venue. But football is a funny old game, and things can come back to bite you when you least expect it. So what will we see this afternoon? We mentioned at the top of the show, this is the oldest trophy in world football. They've all followed this one, and by the end of the afternoon it will either have red and white ribbons on it for the first time since 1990, or it will be the usual green and white, which we see all often in recent seasons. The stage is almost set here at Hampden. Referee Don Robertson just going about his final preparations. He's tossed the coin. Callum McGregor and Graham Shinnie go their respective ways. The final piece of Scottish
brilliant.
gas branding gets removed, but not before a remote control car delivers the match ball into the centre circle. Gordon Dalziel.
That is absolutely wonderful, and everybody can't take their eyes off of that. The referee even looked shocked when he turned round.
Celtic are in the huddle. Listen to this place. This stadium has seen some famous occasions over the years, and this is going to be another one to add to the list. You will know when Celtic break from their huddle because you will hear it, and there it is. We are going to start at 1 minute past 3 today as well, as part of the Every Minute Counts campaign, a very worthy cause that the Scottish FA and the Scottish Cup are throwing their weight behind. But Graham Shinnie stands over the ball. Hugh Keevins, Scott Allan and Andrew Maclean are in the studio. They are going to take you through the action, and we're about to get underway at Hampden.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard. Goal flashes. With M&D Green Pharmacy. Planning your holiday? Get essential health advice and medication before you travel.
Yes, we are underway at Hampden, Aberdeen against Celtic in the Scottish Cup final, and it looks a good occasion, doesn't it, Hugh? Keevins, not quite the sunshine that we associate with Scottish Cup final day quite often, but the fans have turned out in their numbers. The Aberdeen fans in all red, the Celtic fans had their tifo as well as the Aberdeen fans, and hopefully we get the excitement on the pitch.
As you know, Andrew, I don't approve of sunshine at cup finals. I prefer it windy, dark, raining, and I've had my wish. An electronic car bringing the ball. When I went to my first cup final, the ball still had a lace in it. But for what it's worth, and to be perfectly honest, it's not worth much. I think it will be Aberdeen 1, Celtic 3.
You'll be asking that car for a lift home later on, won't you?
Well, yeah, if it's passing, yeah.
What are you thinking, Scott? How's this going to go?
Listen, I think Celtic are obviously massive favourites. I think, obviously, yes, it's a one-off game, but Celtic will know how they can cause this Aberdeen problems. Yes, they've changed shape. Like I said earlier as well, I think it will be interesting to see what Aberdeen are like in possession of the ball when Celtic eventually pin them back. Because week in, week out, we watch Celtic, they dominate the ball. So it'll be hard for Aberdeen to then get up the pitch. But listen, it's a fantastic occasion for both sets of players, both sets of fans. Pitch looks fantastic and hoping for a belter.
Yeah, both teams just feeling each other out in the opening minute and a half that has gone at the National Stadium. Celtic getting their foot on the ball first, really, just taking their time to build out from the back.
Well, the whole concept of the Aberdeen team is, I believe, Jimmy Talleen making sure that there's no early concession of a goal, giving Celtic the chance to really go to town on Aberdeen yet again. So I'm not surprised at the way the game has started. Are you, Scott?
No, listen, that's how Celtic play. They look to get their whole team and suffocate you in your own half, move the ball side to side and then find the openings. That's when Aberdeen are going to have to be really disciplined. Like I said, on the ball they're going to have to use it well when they do regain possession of it, but they're going to have to defend well as a team. Stop this Celtic side.
Yeah, Dyson Maeda with a left-footed cross into the box there. Celtic, it's blocked, but Celtic get the ball back quickly, and I think it will. The game could well follow this kind of pattern, couldn't it, Scott, with Celtic just having the ball in and around the Aberdeen box. And as much as Aberdeen fans would love to see their own team have a quick start, I think just not conceding and not letting Celtic, get their tails up early and get a few shots away is probably a positive for them as well. Yeah, and then they'll trust in obviously the game plan that they've went with today. I just think, listen, even if you go in an attacking game plan, the way Celtic play, it naturally forces you back anyway, and that's when you do turn over the ball, it is so important. But Celtic have the answers. They've shown that all season. And for Aberdeen, it's about staying in the game, and if they do get an opportunity, can they take it? There's been at times already in this opening 3 minutes that Celtic's furthest back player, outfield player, has been Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales about 30 yards from the Aberdeen goal. Well, they must believe in themselves. They have accumulated stats which make it impossible not to believe in yourself. And as I say, the weight of history is with Celtic today. The 9th treble, world record, the 3rd treble for Brendan Rodgers, making him part of Celtic folklore. So they've got to believe that they can illustrate the gap that has existed between Celtic and Aberdeen since that false start that Aberdeen made to the season, where we were taken in 1/3 of the season. They looked impressive. 2/3 of the season later, they look as if it's a gradual decline. Yeah, the ball was just booted up the park by an Aberdeen player there, and that's where you see that it's going to be a long afternoon for the likes of Kevin Nisbet and Topi Keskinen, who will be supporting him, just to keep on pestering that Celtic backline whenever they've got the ball, get themselves in the right positions to try and cut those passing lanes, press at the right time. They've got a big job on their hands. Yeah, it has to be a disciplined performance, but if you are going to go long, you can still go long with a bit of quality. Give Kevin Nisbet something to chase, give him something to fight for, and allow his team to get up the park. Keskinen does have that pace, where if Celtic are caught out with Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales obviously deep in their half, they have Keskinen who could maybe get in behind. But when you don't see the ball for periods of time, it's hard to have the same energy when you're
unlike Celtic, who are constantly on the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out, especially from an attacking threat from Aberdeen, because as it stands, the whole team is obviously forced back into their own half.
How hard is it to maintain concentration as a Celtic player? Because we just watched Liam Scales just lose the ball there. He went into an absent-minded moment, and the ball was taken from him. Can you be too dominant?
Yeah, I don't think you can, Hugh. Yes, you can get travel into areas with the ball where if the Aberdeen guy does press you from the blind side, you could lose the ball. But for Celtic, this is routine for them. Most teams that do play domestically play the same way, and they force them back and just have to move the ball to create the opening. So listen, it's nothing Celtic haven't faced before this season.
Yeah, I think Celtic were maybe just claiming for a bit of a foul in the build up to that foul that went the other way. Alistair Johnson was trying to make a run through beyond the Aberdeen backline. The ball chipped by Nicholas Kuhn towards him. He went down. Referee Don Robertson not having any of it. Free kick eventually going the other way.
Well, I'm sure Celtic will get over it. I'm going to count the minutes until Kasper Schmeichel touches this ball because it's going nowhere near him at the moment.
Listen, if they can buy themselves a foul near the Celtic box, set pieces are always a massive part of modern football. They could maybe steal a goal from that sort of aspect and put Celtic under pressure. Then when you have something to protect, asking to do the job from side to side, the discipline thing, it's easier when you've got a goal to protect.
Greg Taylor on the ball for Celtic at the moment. You do wonder whether this will be Greg Taylor's final match for Celtic. I think certainly an Instagram post that he put up after they lifted the Scottish Premiership trophy, and underneath it just said lived it, loved it, which I think quite a few supporters took as it being his goodbye.
Well, if Celtic win the cup, we'll read his body language, and we've got Scott Allan here who has been in the dressing room with these guys, and he will know from Greg Taylor's body language whether it's a farewell or I'll see you next season.
He is a player who has maybe come under quite a bit of criticism at times from some Celtic supporters, but you look over the years since he came in from Kilmarnock, just how many different left backs have come in and challenged him, and he's managed to just brush them all aside. Happened again this season with Jeffrey Schlupp, where it looked for maybe the period of 2-3 weeks where he looked he might be the favourite, as Cameron Carter-Vickers scuffs a back pass towards Kasper Schmeichel, who gets his first touch 7 minutes in, but just under a wee bit of pressure there, Cameron Carter-Vickers, but he can be Celtic getting away with it.
Can be prone to that, Cameron Carter-Vickers. There's been 1 or 2 episodes during the season, a blind pass back to the goalkeeper that doesn't make its destination, but it continues. Incidentally, it was 6 minutes and 15 seconds before Kasper Schmeichel touched the ball, and that was with his feet, not his hands.
Just what I was saying about Greg Taylor there, it's that resilience and that consistency that he's shown over the years at Celtic is why managers have just continued to pick him. Yeah, listen, I think for me, that resilience, you've seen that year on year. Obviously you spoke about guys coming in obviously looking to challenge him, and he seems to be the guy who has had that left back berth now for a good few seasons. For me as well, I think he carries a lot of quality. I think the real questions that have been asked him have been at a level at the Champions League. Take the Bayern Munich game in isolation, coming up against real physical guys with serious ability in a game where Celtic weren't dominating the ball, and questions were asked, as it would be of most left backs in playing in the domestic league that we watch every week in, week out. So there's going to be a wee chance here. So for me, I think the criticism that he has come in for has been totally untoward. As a player who I've played against, he's got a lot of quality on the ball. He's shown that, and in the isolated games against teams like Bayern Munich, where he does come under pressure, you can totally feel for him. Aberdeen managing to win the ball back from Celtic down that right side of Celtic where they were trying to get the ball into the box. Paulo Bernardo just doing everything he can against Knuster, who manages to clear. Kevin Nisbet getting in there, but it's a good challenge by, was that Alistair Johnson, just to win it back for Celtic.
I know that Aberdeen have to put their team out the way they have, let them out, Scott, and Celtic have to do what they can to combat that, but it doesn't make for a riveting final. Yeah. No, it does. Listen, as soon as you see that it's going to be the back five, you know what you're in for. I think this is exactly what we thought. Celtic obviously trying to probe and find an opening for the combinations that we see, and for Aberdeen it's about defending disciplined, but then when they've had the ball, even in this first 10 minutes of the game, they haven't had an out ball at all.
and it looks to me that it's going to continue this way.
Defensively, they've been quite effective so far in this opening 9.5 minutes, just in terms of when the ball is getting to the feet of certain Celtic players, are just on them quickly. They're not giving them a second, but one mistake and one lapse of concentration and Celtic can punish you.
Yeah, they can. I think in terms of Aberdeen, it's the first 10 minutes of a Scottish Cup final, so you have that, naturally you have that energy as the game progresses and they're not seeing much of the ball, where the distances become a lot further than they are at the first 10 minutes of the game. So like I said, it's about getting that discipline in their performance, and can they maybe nick a goal off a set piece or on a counter attack.
Would it help the game if Aberdeen scored first?
Yes, I think so. As a spectacle it would do.
We shall see.
Aberdeen fans head to toe in red. I think it makes for quite a good picture, doesn't it? The whole half of Hampden, of course, Aberdeen selling out their allocation, that 50% allocation they've got. It was a concerted effort from the Aberdeen fans to make sure that they all come in red, and you can certainly see that as they try to work their first attack of the game, but it's cleared by Liam Scales.
To be fair to Aberdeen, I didn't think they'd even sell their allocation, given that the last 2/3 of the season have been so disappointing from their perspective, but
final was just different though, isn't it?
Yeah, always that hope, isn't there, that comes out.
That's why the saying, hope springs eternal. 35 years without a Scottish Cup win, and you sell out in hours, not days, hours.
Yeah, foul by Callum McGregor there just in the Aberdeen half. Graham Shinney, who maybe took a bit of a heavier touch than he was planning, but Callum McGregor just careering into the back of him. Will be a free kick to Aberdeen, pretty much in the centre of their own half.
So we're still waiting for anything remotely resembling a chance in front of either goal.
But that will please Jimmy Talleen.
Yeah, of course.
For all the ball that Celtic have had, that Aberdeen have managed to limit them in their opportunities. As Kevin Nisbet
doesn't have to make the throw there.
Yeah, Cameron Carter-Vickers just going towards his own byline and really no pressure at all, and just shoved in the back by Kevin Nisbet. Will be a free kick to Celtic. Does he just need to jockey him there and hope that he can maybe win a corner out of it?
Yeah, you just make him defend, make him have to clear the ball. He could obviously miss kick it and he goes out for a throw in. That gives your team obviously a chance to get high in Celtic's half. But listen, he makes Cameron Carter-Vickers' job easy there. The pushings, he feels the contact, goes down and buys Celtic the free kick.
So far in these early stages, Liam Scales seeing a lot of the ball, as he quite often does on the ball for Celtic. A lot of their build-up goes through him and Cameron Carter-Vickers, who have really sort of established themselves once again as the starting pair after Austin Trusty played a lot of the early parts of the season.
Yeah, but Austin Trusty has now become surplus to requirements. It'll be an interesting summer for him and the others at Celtic. We've gone on about Rangers and the summer that awaits them under new ownership.
It's a wonderful ball by Greg Taylor. It's across the box by Daisen Maeda. Aberdeen managed to clear that initial ball into the box and do it again the second time, but that's what Greg Taylor is capable of. We'll stay with this because Aberdeen clear the ball. It will be a free kick to Aberdeen with Nicholas Kuhn sliding in late, but Greg Taylor just showing that quality on the ball that we seemed to see a lot more once Ange Postecoglou came in and he occupied more sort of midfield areas of the pitch and playing that ball in between the fullback and the central defender that he's found so much success with.
Yeah, it has. It does help when you've got the fastest guy in the league though, making runs for you. You just have to hit a space. And I think there's a really good relationship there between the two in terms of on the pitch. So you've seen that combination many a time for Celtic, and that is something that Greg Taylor has shown over the years, that when he is in the areas he can hurt you with a bit of vision, and the quality of weight of pass here is fantastic. Maeda just obviously chokes it a wee bit in the cross, but positive for Celtic.
I think Daisen Maeda, and I fully understand the reasons why, but I think he's gone off slightly. The edge has come off his game in recent weeks because he's had his wife going into labour in Japan, and he's been there, and the baby didn't arrive, and he came back here, and he's been back and forth. I think it's told on him, but that was the Daisen Maeda of old there, that burst of pace, the fact that nothing came of it. At least it was a sign that he can be perhaps trusted today to be a bit of a damage to Aberdeen.
you say of old. I think he's still in probably double figures in goals since the end of February, so it's maybe just the last 4 games or so that you've maybe seen a difference. But even at that, he's still, even if he's not contributing goals, he contributes so much in other ways, doesn't he?
I'd have had him off by this time.
Listen, he's a dream for especially a forward thinking midfielder, even a fullback. I think every time you open up, you know there's a chance that he can stretch a team, and you just have to put the ball into space and let him go and do what he does best, and that's get at defenders and score goals. And he's been the standout player for me this season domestically.
He's the type of player as well. I think he will be going back to Japan maybe for a few weeks. Just the birth of, I think, is his third child is on the way. Has been back and forward, as you say. Went before the St Mirren game, or was it before the Hibs game? One of the two. Anyway, he had some time before the Hibs game, just some time back in Japan, but you know that he is always going to show up and give 110% every time he's out on the pitch. As Celtic have a free kick here, which is taken by Arne Engels, and really not quite sure what the plan was for that. Tried to cut it towards the edge of the box where Callum McGregor and Paulo Bernardo were, and it didn't go towards either of them. How do you think Engels' season's been, Hugh?
Moments of brilliance, moments of he must do better than that. He's always lumbered with the £11 million tag, and he is a young man, 20 years old. I think he's a lovely player when he's at it. I go back to the game where Celtic beat Aberdeen 6-0, League Cup semi-final at Hampden, and Arne Engels was outstanding that night. But it's a hard school here, as you know, Scott. So if you have 2 bad games in a row, you're a dud.
Yeah, listen, I think this is a solid first year for Arne Engels. I think next year you'll maybe see the best in him. He obviously knows what to expect and what the demands are of the club, and he'll be looking to kick on.
He obviously comes in with that huge price tag, but then to go along with it, he was only 20 when Celtic signed him. He's only 21 now. He's still a very young player, a Belgian international. Plenty of positive things you think Brendan Rodgers will have seen that you can build on in pre-season, and you can go up a level again. Yeah, listen, as I was saying, I think that first season you learn a lot about obviously the environment you're in, a lot about yourself. He'll obviously go back this summer, he'll look at the games that he played well in. What did he do well? What can he improve on? And Brendan Rodgers and the Celtic staff will be a big part in that, and trying to take him to the next level next year, because listen, they have paid the money, so you know that Celtic are going to show a lot of faith in him. The one for me, which is the question marks would be asked, was obviously with Liam Scales coming back in for Trusty. Scales, who I think when he's called upon, he gives you everything. He's got good quality on the ball, but when we've seen Trusty come in at the end of the transfer window, we were expecting that it would be him and Cameron Carter-Vickers for the full season. But listen, Scales again, we talk about resilience, he's hung in there and he's got back in the side, and Trusty, as Hugh says, looks as if he could be heading elsewhere come summer. Someone who maybe hasn't kicked on this season the way they would have liked is Paulo Bernardo. I know he has had injuries, but ever since he got injured and he came back in, he has struggled for minutes under Brendan Rodgers, and maybe just hasn't hit the heights and played as many minutes as he had last season during his loan spell.
Funnily enough, Cammy Bell and I were on Super Scoreboard last night, and both of us thought that Luke McKeown should start the game instead of Paulo Bernardo. I just think that he's ineffectual, Paulo Bernardo. Everyone goes back to the cup final last season where he had the shot that Jack Butland let loose, and Ademida scored the goal that won the cup. But for me, I think you get more out of McKeown. Listen, I do like Bernardo as a player. I think you look at the aspects where he has had the injuries, but ultimately I think Brendan Rodgers that was his midfield three. Engels, Hatate, who's been fantastic this year, Callum McGregor, who's a guaranteed starter every week. So I think when you play in that area, especially for a club like Celtic, when you don't have a run of games, I think you're going to get that up and down in terms of performance, where you come in and you maybe have a real impact in the game, and then the next week, because you've not had a lot of football, it might not go as well as you expect it to. So I think kind of nailing down a position and getting the run of 6-7 games, it gives you a real chance to go and build on that, where he hasn't had that this season. Cameron Carter-Vickers going down there when a Celtic corner came into the box. Jack Milne with his hands on him, certainly he was claiming for something. Was he ever going to get that, Hugh? Not a penalty for me. I know we had big fuss over the penalty that was given to Ross County in the playoff match earlier this week, but that was a penalty for me. But Carter-Vickers, no, not for me. No, not for me either. Listen, I don't think there was enough contact. I think the one, obviously, Danny Wilson, I think he holds on for it probably a second and a half too long. Yeah, that was more of a
a clear kind of shirt pull, the one in that game, whereas, I mean, Jack Milne's hands are on Cameron Carter-Vickers, but that kind of happens at every corner, doesn't it? He doesn't look as if he's sort of pulling him or pushing him to get him away from the ball.
No, that happens every game of football all across the country at all ages.
Paulo Bernardo now just looking for that ball forward. Dyson Maeda is quick, but not quick enough to get onto that overhit pass by Bernardo.
Well, we're 20 minutes in now, and the final is yet to catch fire. I think that's fair to say. Aberdeen have set themselves up in a way that they don't do damage. Celtic have yet to think of a way around about it, so the final has a way to go yet before it can be termed a classic cup final.
Just a shot of Jamie McGrath sitting in the stand there. Of course, he's off to Hibs this summer. He'd be a miss in this game, just given the quality that he's got on the ball.
It'll be interesting to wonder if he's wanting the Celtic win, obviously, for they play in Europe next season. That guarantees a chance there. It guarantees, obviously, Hibs group stages if Celtic win today. Listen, I think it's one of the ones you make the decision to sign a pre-contract and you know that's going to be. I think he's actually probably played a lot more minutes than he probably expected to, because at some clubs you would obviously be cast to the side if you want to go elsewhere. So
ball over the top, Dyson Maeda's header goes across the box. There was Arne Engels advancing, but Mitov is out quickly to catch that and then decides just to slow the game down, not to play that one out too quickly, just let the Aberdeen players get themselves back into a shape.
Well, the game's slow enough without anybody else trying to slow it down further.
Jimmy Tillene will be happy with that, though, in terms of just hitting those milestones, hitting that 20-minute mark and not really seeing his side being under any real danger.
Jimmy Tillene would be happy if it was the most boring final in the history of Scottish Cup finals and he somehow managed to get a victory. As Dyson Maeda goes down,
there'll be a stoppage here. It was certainly not meant. He went out for an aerial challenge with Alfie Dorrington. He's actually up already. We know his sort of bounce back ability and his resilience, but even at that one he sort of toppled over the top of Alfie Dorrington, who didn't jump up for the header, and he falls, lands on his neck. That is looked a sore one, but as soon as the camera panned away and panned back to him, he was up and walking.
He's an incredible character in the physical sense, and Scott, that looked horrible.
Yeah, they're sore ones as well. He was up a lot quicker than I would have been.
Quarter of the game in, and as I say, Jimmy Tillene, pragmatist. It doesn't matter. He's not there to entertain. Not there to entertain his own fans, never mind the Celtic fans. He's there to try and get a cup win for Aberdeen, and this is the way he's going about it. And Celtic will have to show more guile than they have done up until now.
Not that they've really had many opportunities, but Aberdeen just do need to show a bit more quality on the ball when they get it. You just saw it, the ball went to Kevin Nisbet, who dropped a bit deeper and had his back to goal, and instead of maybe bringing it in and getting other players into play, just went for a first time pass round the corner that was never really on.
Yeah, and that's the moments as an Aberdeen player in this game, and you're not seeing much of the ball. The moments are massive. Kevin Nisbet, I played with him at Hibs. He does have that quality. He can take the ball in, but as a team you have to, as a striker, get guys in the game to take you up the pitch. If not, it's going to be a long day for Aberdeen. This is Jimmy Tillene looking at us, he'll be happy enough, but Celtic will find a rhythm. Celtic will find a way to work this out.
I think Kevin Nisbet will be a bit annoyed about the latest Scotland squad not making it in the second half of the season. He's performed well, he's scored quite a few goals. You look at the options that Steve Clarke's gone for, maybe in that area of the pitch he's maybe looking more towards the future, the likes of Kieran Bowie and James Wilson in the squad, along with George Hurst, Tommy Conway.
Well, I think Steve Clarke kind of spoke about obviously Shanks and Kevin Nisbet in terms of why he'd left him out, because he was wanting to look to the future. For me, I think Kieran Bowie, and I said it on the show during the week, I think he'd only started 5 or 6 games for Hibs, but when he has played, he's looked a real threat. I think obviously coming through that under-21 setup, you would want that natural progression to see your players come through and do well for the A squad. I think we've all watched enough of Scottish football. We know it's an area of the park where we have to improve, we have to have better quality, and we have to be looking to the next generation, moulding them in, so in years to come it's not a position where we've not got a lot to call upon.
Yeah, Celtic moving the ball forward now, but once again just the ball being nicked off of the feet of Dyson Maeda. Celtic will have to start again with the ball back at the feet of Liam Scales.
There have been days periodically throughout the season. I mean, Celtic lost to St Johnstone, the relegated club at McDermott Park. They lost to Hibs, Easter Road, lost to Rangers at Celtic Park. There are days when they just don't spark. And so far, there's been a severe lack of spark.
Well, the only spark is the pyrotechnic that's been thrown down towards the corner of the pitch there. Don Robertson just having to stop the game. They have to get someone over with a wee claw picker-upper to go and remove that. I think it did come from the Aberdeen end, just down into the corner.
Scottish football is enduring a period of half-wittedness at the moment. We'll get trouble everywhere we go, and pyrotechnics they're on that list.
Oh, chance for Celtic here. Paulo Bernardo, ball trying to go across the 6-yard box, but Jack Milne with the block, and Celtic will have a chance to put the ball into the box again with a corner.
See, for me, Scottish have done better there. He's a bit languid.
I think that's a bit harsh, Hugh. I think, listen, it was well worked. He gets into an area, he's obviously trying to flash it across the front post. I think we have to give credit to the Aberdeen defending there.
You're far too nice.
I'm far too nice.
Hugh doesn't stand for that type of positivity.
No, not at all.
There's things getting thrown on again as well.
Yeah, part of the Aberdeen display, which is just sort of red bits of paper, cards that were being held up earlier on. You see that quite a bit, just sort of scrunched up into a ball thrown towards Nicholas Kuhn, who was about to take the corner. That corner comes to nothing, actually goes all the way back to Kasper Schmeichel.
I think the club who had a player struck by a seat thrown from the Aberdeen crowd last weekend should mind their manners.
Yeah, Jack McKenzie is on the bench today. That is good to see, despite that injury that he picked up. Pretty bad looking facial injury, wasn't it?
That could have been a truly horrific incident. Truly horrific. So, as I say, we are enduring a period of half-wittedness. Hopefully it will go away.
Nicholas Kuhn sort of jinking one way, then the other goes for the right-footed cross. It will be another Celtic corner after Nicky Devlin made the block.
Well, this is going to extra time and penalties.
I'm going to the boxing tonight, Hugh, I hope not.
Oh, you a Josh Taylor man tonight?
Josh Taylor, Lee McGregor man tonight.
It's going to be, will be the left foot of Nicholas Kuhn once again to take this in-swinging corner as he's surrounded by those scrunched up reds bit of paper. That delivery looks a bit better, but Mitov able to, with both fists coming out and punching it away. Kuhn will get the chance to deliver once again. This one goes towards the back post. Aberdeen defending their box well again.
Celtic don't really have a threat in the air. Periodically somebody will chip in, a Carter Vickers or a Scales, but they're not really one for.
It's always Scales you'd think is maybe the most likely, isn't it? It's not ever really been Cameron Carter Vickers' game in terms of being an attacking threat in the box.
The 6-0 game against Aberdeen with a header, Carter Vickers, but it's not Celtic's forte.
He's also just not the tallest of central defenders.
No, you don't always have to be the tallest. You have that natural grip.
A strike from the edge of the box there. That was Greg Taylor looking for what potentially could be a dream send-off as he is away from Celtic this season, going from long range. I don't think it took any type of deflection or a touch from the goalkeeper, did it? Just going straight over the bar.
What a farewell present that could have been.
Yeah, I think he just hits across it, obviously looking for that far corner. Mitov must have felt he was in a bit of trouble there, because he did make an attempt to go for it. Good strike, catches it cleanly.
Yeah, close enough. Far away. Yeah, close enough that Mitov felt he had to dive and try and get something on it. It didn't come off his fingertips, and Mitov will take the goal kick.
Well, that's Greg Taylor in the mood to say, well, if you don't buy a ticket you won't win the raffle. So he's had a go, and we're half an hour in, we need more of that.
Free kick, I think it will be given to Celtic. Just Topi Keskinen, was it, just barging into Cameron Carter Vickers as he was heading the clearance away.
Listen, it's a hard shift for the attacking players for Aberdeen, because the ball isn't coming up with real quality, so you're having to worry about the quality of ball up to you first and foremost, and then who's right behind you, whether that's Cameron Carter Vickers, Liam Scales, Cal McGregor mopping up in front. It's not easy, so the quality has to be a bit better. As we've seen, Aberdeen haven't been an attacking threat at all in this opening period.
How much is the trick for them just not to get frustrated and just keep on making those runs and keep on harrying that Celtic defence?
Yeah, well, I think when you have been on the end of 3 heavy defeats from Celtic, then it's easier, because you don't want to be on the end of that again, especially in a cup final. You want to give yourself the best chance. The longer the game goes on, they do have more of a chance of getting something from the game. But listen, it's a really tough ask for Kevin Nisbet for 90 minutes to do that.
A lovely back heel flick by Arne Engels to create a bit of space on that Celtic right side. It's now Nicholas Kuhn doing that trademark cut inside that we see from him so often. Greg Taylor now thought about crossing it, but plays it to Callum McGregor. Dinked ball over the top of the Aberdeen defence, will be easily caught by Dimitar Mitov.
Extra time and penalties.
No, listen, Callum McGregor, I think, is looking for Bernardo. We round the corner there, just didn't quite execute it the way he wanted to. But that is the way that Celtic are going to have to play, obviously, to get to trouble this Aberdeen defence. Balls across and then be quick 1-2s round the edge of the box. Just haven't quite found their rhythm yet.
And there's another one from Aberdeen, just not having that quality when playing that long ball forward.
Yeah, they're having a horrible time of it, the 2 guys up front. Just nothing at all. Kasper Schmeichel, a virtual spectator, only dealing with passbacks. But we're still waiting for Celtic, whether it's Kuhn, Maeda. You can't go on about Adamida. He needs some sort of service if you want a goal from him.
Yeah, that was almost an opening for Celtic. The first time ball looked to be into the path of Paulo Bernardo, but just had a bit too much on it and rolls across the byline. Will be a goal kick to Aberdeen as Jimmy Tillene watches on. Will be, you think, relatively pleased with just the way that Aberdeen have defended so far. The longer that they can just keep Celtic at bay, the more it gives them the chance to just try and push later on in the game and get that goal.
Well, when you consider that Celtic went to Pittodrie 10 days before this cup final and won 5-1 with a makeshift team, then that has to have played on Jimmy Tillene's mind. And as I say, he's not come here to entertain not even the Aberdeen fans. He's come here to try and somehow snatch the cup.
Do you think that game has any impact on this game at all for the Aberdeen players? Having that mindset, just having that mindset of knowing that essentially Celtic's second string side went there and beat them very comfortably, or is it a case of because the circumstances are so different? It's a cup final, it's at the National Stadium. Does that change it?
No, I think for me, psychologically, if you're not on it or you give Celtic space to play, they can go and punish you. They have proven that 3 times against Celtic this year with the heavy scorelines, as we spoke about. I think the longer the game goes on, that's when the belief will come. Right, we're not obviously conceding 2, 3, 4, 5 goals, which they have before. That's where the belief will come. They then look to their bench. They've got a guy in Shayden Morris who is a potential game changer for me. Obviously, that speed that he has, he can cause real problems. And again, we see ball up to the striker, giving away that. Listen, you can defend with discipline for large spells of the game, but you've got to have more quality when it goes up to your strikers.
That will be huge frustration for Jimmy Tillene, because Kevin Nisbet had loads of grass ahead of him. All he needed to do was just take a couple of touches out his feet and get away from the chasing midfielders, see if he could either carry the ball further or get Keskin to pull away a couple of players with a run, or maybe find the pass to him. But the ball just kind of got caught under his feet and allowed Celtic to get back in and make the challenge, as Callum McGregor actually looks as if he's struggling here, which is very unlike him. The game has had to be stopped. Not quite sure what the issue is, but you know what Callum McGregor's like. He wants to play every single minute of every game, and looks as if he's going to try and push on for now.
Well, we'll find out at half time, because if he doesn't come back out, then we'll know it's something serious. But Jimmy Tillene will be experiencing mild frustration, because he hasn't conceded anything.
But Hugh, when he set up this team, he must have knew this was how it was going to go in terms of from an attacking threat, because once you play 5 at the back, unless everything's perfect, the ball up to the striker, and you have an outlet to then allow your team go, you ain't going to score goals. And that's the way it's been for them in terms of in possession. It's been really, really poor.
Celtic have found a bit of success, certainly not there with that ball across the park from Paulo Bernardo that gives the ball away, but Aberdeen give it straight back to Celtic again. But just that sort of one-touch passing around the Aberdeen box is when they've found a bit of success, managed to play their way around Aberdeen as they've done right now. Just a few players getting involved. Dalziel's touch just a bit too heavy, and Jack Milne able to take the ball. This will be a real test for Aberdeen, because they now have a chance, and that is really poor, isn't it? Because he's in a position there where you can either take a touch, you've got options ahead of you. You get the ball out your feet and wait for the runs into the box to cross it, and it looked as if he was maybe going for that cross. It was at Palaversa, that cross into the box or over the top, and it just went along the ground straight to a Celtic player.
Yeah, and is that fatigue obviously so early in the game because of the fact they're surprised that they're so near the Celtic box? It was set up perfectly to put that deep cross and go and make Celtic defend. And then for there you can maybe get a set piece where you can get a chance, but you've got to make it count when you get to there as a part, especially against this Celtic side.
I'm thinking of the caller last night to Super Scoreboard who said he'd be upset if it wasn't 5-0 at half time. It'll be a frantic last 10 minutes to this first half.
To be fair, was it not the semi-final against St Johnstone? It was around the 34th minute that Celtic got their first goal, and it was 4-0 at half time. So it's not out of the question.
Would you like a pound on that?
I'll keep that in my pocket, I think.
You see, in fairness though, Celtic haven't been their kind of fluent best in the final third either. They haven't quite found their rhythm yet. I think Alistair Johnson there swings one he should do a lot better, and it goes out for a throw in deep in the Aberdeen half.
I think could be doing more, and I think Paulo Bernardo flatters to deceive. I know it's great for tacticians and all the rest of it, but Celtic have to be capable of better than this when it comes to ending the stalemate.
I think we have seen a few of these types of performances for Celtic, and it just does take that one goal that really just helps them ramp things up and really opens the game up for them, and they can go and punish teams. That semi-final was the perfect example of that against St Johnstone, where it didn't look great really up until that 34th minute, and then they ran away with the game up until half time. But can you see that happening in this final 10 minutes or so of this first half?
I think
a wee bit early to go on that, to be fair, Andy, but I think, listen, it's clear that Celtic haven't quite found their rhythm yet. They're finding it hard, obviously, with Aberdeen having the bodies centrally. I think that's maybe why you aren't seeing the effects of, obviously, Bernardo and that. And at the same time, taking Hitate's creativity out of that Celtic side's a massive loss for me. He's got the best vision, awareness in the league in terms of looking to find a threaded pass and different way of passes. So you're taking a big creative force of Celtic out of that side today.
Celtic going short with this corner. Arne Engels getting it back from Greg Taylor. That ball into the box maybe just kind of sums up the lack of quality that we've seen from both teams so far in this game. Just loops over everyone. Aberdeen managing to keep it in play, and that's a brilliant run up the park as Aberdeen look to get forward, and if they could create something from this, it would be quite something. Still have the ball back again and in the Celtic half, but this is maybe the most promising attack that Aberdeen have had so far as Liam Scales heads the ball away.
Well, it's the closest they've got to Kasper Schmeichel without getting a shot off or a header.
It's not been a classic, Hugh, has it?
No. I mean, I know I always get the Grim Reaper and all the rest of it, but it's a poor final. You can dress it up all you like about style and tactics and this, that and the other. It's a mediocre final.
That's maybe where you wondered Celtic might have a bit of joy there. Aberdeen showed a bit of ambition. They had a few bodies forward, and all of a sudden the ball comes to Greg Taylor, a nice touch round the corner. Celtic get away quite quickly, but they just didn't seem to attack at the pace that probably supporters and Brendan Rodgers would have wanted to at that point, to trouble Aberdeen, who had committed a few bodies forward.
No, I actually don't think Maeda's got into areas where he can really go and hurt this Aberdeen side enough. I think a lot of the plays come down the other side as Maeda gets the ball in behind, well defended.
Yeah, good challenge, and it will be another corner to Celtic. Nicky Devlin just getting in there, nicking the ball away from the feet of Daisen Maeda. Is it a throw-in? Is that instead of a corner? I think it maybe looks as if they're setting up for a corner.
Well, the psychological blow to Aberdeen if Celtic were to score this close to the interval, but I don't think so. We're going in 0-0.
Arne Engels took the last one short. This one will go into the Aberdeen box. Right-footed in swinger, and it caused some issues, and that is the opener at Hampden.
Goal flashes with M&D Green Pharmacy.
Well, I think it's Cameron Carter-Vickers that's getting the acclaim. Is it potentially a bit of an own goal? You can never really tell sometimes from the celebrations when there's no one really claiming it. Jack Milne is the focus of the TV broadcast cameras. It could well have taken the final touch off of him, but either way, it's a Celtic goal and they're ahead in the final.
You see, I did that for the good of the programme.
I know you did.
And the good of
That's another Hugh classic, isn't it?
As soon as I said we're going in 0-0, a goal came. So it's really my goal.
I think it's Carter-Vickers onto Millen, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a header from Cameron Carter-Vickers. Does it come off Jack Milne? Does it come off someone else after that? We'll see probably from this replay. The two of them were jostling. Cameron Carter-Vickers actually
off the Aberdeen player.
Yeah, it comes off of, was it Palaversa potentially? I think is the last player it came off. Bounced off his shoulder into the bottom corner. And
nearly got there as well.
Yeah, it was actually Jensen, was it, or Alfie Dorrington? Alfie Dorrington.
We'll go through the whole team if you want.
But there is no doubt it's an own goal.
Yeah, an Alfie Dorrington own goal puts Celtic ahead with just over 5 minutes to go of the first half. Celtic have the lead, and it's not a classic Scottish Cup final goal, but Brendan Rodgers and the Celtic players will not care one bit.
It's a goal as scruffy as the game, but Aberdeen, it's very important now that they don't lose the place altogether, because they're in danger.
That was a wonderful ball forward towards Adamida, and Dimitar Mitov had sort of memories of Dean Henderson in the FA Cup final, where he came for it and batted the ball away outside the box from Erling Haaland. Was it?
Somebody's down, Celtic player down.
A Celtic player down, Dyson Maeda potentially. Aberdeen looked to play on, but that ball over the top, I should say, did go into the Aberdeen box, and it was caught by Dimitar Mitov. But Dyson Maeda is down.
He survived a horrible fall earlier on, and it's not often you see Maeda just go down like that, but he looks
knee in the back.
Yeah,
sore one.
It's always a sore one. Just sort of stooped down, didn't he, to try and control the ball, and Alfie Dorrington just kneeing him in the back.
Alfie's having a good day, isn't he?
It'll be a good day if he manages to get Maeda to go off. Listen, I spoke about how important set pieces were for Aberdeen. It's actually been a difference for Celtic on the angles. You give yourself a chance to go and create an opportunity. Puts a fantastic ball in. Obviously Cameron Carter-Vickers gets the first contact and it goes in off Dorrington. But it'll be interesting to see how Aberdeen play now, because they've just had no threat at all going forward, and that was my worry for them at the start of the game. I think Celtic will now, they'll settle into the game a lot more. They don't have to go forward. They don't have to go forward quick with every opportunity, and that will frustrate Aberdeen even more, because they're the ones chasing now.
Well, there are two things possible. Celtic score a second goal, you might as well put your jacket on and go home. So Aberdeen are obliged to try and remain a part of this cup final. And if their idea of remaining a part of the cup final is to try to prevent Celtic's second goal without actually scoring for themselves, then they've had it.
Well, Celtic looking to try and get it. Nicholas Kuhn with the ball across, and it will be another Celtic corner. Just some nice quick passing along the edge of the Aberdeen box to get it to Alistair Johnson, then down to Nicholas Kuhn. They just looked as if they maybe had a bit more of a spring in their step in those last few moments after they'd got that goal to put themselves ahead.
Yeah, natural. Obviously the goal settles you down and brings your team energy. One shot again this time.
Well, a second goal before half time, and Aberdeen really are done for. They just tell the driver to start the bus.
Nicholas Kuhn with a looping corner towards the back post, and it's headed out for another corner. Alfie Dorrington with his head on that one. Producer Jay tells us that it's the first own goal in a Scottish Cup final since the goal that Mark Wilson claims that was actually a Stephen Craigan own goal.
No, can't have that. Mark Wilson is a classic moment in Scottish Cup history. So, but what we've got 2 minutes of regulation time. There will be time added on. If Celtic get a second goal before half time, Aberdeen don't win the cup. Aberdeen don't score 3 goals in one half against Celtic.
Arne Engels in swinger again from the same side that the goal came from, but Dimitar Mitov comes out, punches that one away, and Leighton Clarkson shows good strength to win that ball back, launches it forward. Celtic dealing with it defensively initially, but Aberdeen could have a chance to get forward, but Cameron Carter-Vickers with a foul Cameron Carter-Vickers, certainly there's going to be a booking for someone. A good bit of pushing and shoving between Cameron Carter-Vickers and Graham Shinnie. He just threatens to boil over.
I think for a player of his experience, Shinnie can show a remarkable lack of self-control. I don't know if he's getting the yellow card, but he's right in there. Carter-Vickers as well.
Yeah, I have a feeling it will be Cameron Carter-Vickers to go into the book. It may well be one for Shinnie afterwards, just for what ensued, but Cameron Carter-Vickers for that initial challenge.
Both
and
of
then
them.
Graham Shinnie has gone into the book as well.
Well, as I say, I do understand that Graham Shinnie is very upset because Aberdeen are going to go behind and do an own goal into the bargain. But there's nothing wrong with that tackle from Carter-Vickers.
I thought that at first viewing, to be fair, Hugh, I thought it was he'd won the ball. Shinnie doing what Shinnie does, he obviously came over trying to well, to be fair, both of them at it.
Yeah, Cameron Carter-Vickers picking up the ball, trying to stop Aberdeen from taking a quick free kick, and both holding on to each other's shirt. He's normally quite a calm customer, Cameron Carter-Vickers, isn't he?
Must be a bit of history there.
Yeah, it's the only flashpoint of the entire first half. You know, as I say, even the goal was a low-key affair because it's an own goal, but a genuine flashpoint.
There's a chance. Aberdeen have a chance to put the ball in the box, and they do something they've worked on the training ground, I assume, and the ball doesn't even reach the 18-yard box. It's so poor game management.
Yeah, the game has stopped. There is Alfie Dorrington is down. That doesn't look great, does it, the way that he's holding on to his shoulder. I don't know if it's a dislocation or whether he's just had a bump on that shoulder, but he's certainly down, and there will be a stoppage to see if he's all right. It is, of course, with his touch that means Celtic are ahead. That own goal, we'll be able to see a replay of it here. Looked quite innocuous, didn't it? The Celtic player, was it Arne Engels, maybe just kind of went up for the header, landed down on the shoulder of Alfie Dorrington.
But he's in discomfort.
Yeah, you do wonder whether it could be the end of Alfie Dorrington's afternoon. He did have a shake of the head there as he speaks to the medics. Jimmy Talleen just taking some notes, working out exactly what he's going to do, what his plan for this second half is going to be. He's already getting some instructions over to some of the Aberdeen players that have made their way over to the touchline.
I wonder if he takes, if Dorrington goes off, does he go back to a 4, bring Shayden Morris on to give him a bit of pace, someone to take them up the pitch and get them into areas where they can maybe trouble Celtic.
Yeah, just seen a replay of the goal. It was Cameron Carter-Vickers that was in there trying to cause some issues as the Arne Engels corner came in. I think he did get a touch, didn't he, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and that headed it on to Alfie Dorrington and then in off the post, and that is the goal that does give Celtic the lead, and I'm sure they will have the lead going into the break. It will be a stoppage, so there will be more than the minimum of 2 that were added just as this Alfie Dorrington situation gets sorted out. I think he is now, he's certainly off the pitch. Probably Jimmy Talleen might just wait until the break to make a change if it is needed.
Yeah. So as you reflect on the first half, Scott, obviously Brendan Rodgers the happier of the two managers. He's got a 1-goal lead, but it's not over.
Yeah, it's not. Listen, it's not. It's never over at 1-0 or 2-0. I just feel in terms of Aberdeen in possession of the ball, they don't look like they're going to trouble Celtic at all, especially in this shape. Obviously now Celtic have the goal advantage. You'd expect them to find more of a rhythm. I think as the game goes on and the distances, as I spoke about, for the Aberdeen players become bigger and bigger and they can't get there with the same impetus, it will become harder. Celtic will then find the gaps and create more opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see what Jimmy Talleen does at half time, because for me I think the most effective player against a team like Celtic would be a Shayden Morris, because he is the one player who can travel 30-40 yards with the ball, and I don't feel they have that on the pitch. Out with Keskin and maybe they haven't showed any threat.
Well, Aberdeen's final task will be to make sure that Celtic don't double their lead before the break. We have hit 48 minutes, but Celtic in no rush to get the ball forward, just happy to keep it, pass it around, wait for that opportunity to get the ball forward with Cameron Carter-Vickers now. Here's Arne Engels being harried by an Aberdeen midfielder.
The Celtic midfield has not been that great. But there we are, half time.
Yes, half time at Hampden. Let's get the story from Gordon Dalziel, Mark Wilson and Gordon Duncan.
Yes, half time in this Scottish Cup final at Hampden. It's Aberdeen 0, Celtic 1. Alfie Dorrington's own goal separates the sides. It has not been a classic full of free-flowing goal-scoring chances. However, Celtic by a mile the dominant team in terms of possession, hence why they have that lead. It did come from the set piece. It was Cameron Carter-Vickers with the header. It came off the unfortunate Dorrington, went in off the post. Mitov couldn't keep it out, and in a game that has lacked any real incident in front of goal, we got the one. It found the back of the net, and that is why Celtic have that half-time lead. What did you make of it, Mark Wilson?
Exactly how you described it there, Gordon. Not a classic, not really easy on the eye, but did we really expect anything different? We saw the Aberdeen lineup at the start. We knew they were going to play a 5 at the back, that 3 in midfield, and we wondered how the 2 up top would function, and we quite quickly seen how that was going to play out. That kind of low block and the 5 were the Aberdeen backline were so deep that restricted any space from a Celtic point of view. So we're used to seeing Kuhn run in behind, or we're used to seeing Maeda run in behind, and it was so few and far between because the space just wasn't there. So it was a containment job from Aberdeen. Could Celtic have done more? Probably. They maybe needed to move it quicker from side to side, but it took us so long to get any glimpse of goal. It was Greg Taylor from 25 yards out. So if you're Jimmy Thelin, you're probably thinking, OK, it's job done. But surely when they get possession, Aberdeen, they had to offer more going forward, and the goal kind of sums up the half. Just a ball into the middle of the 6-yard box, off the back of Dorrington, and Celtic find themselves 1 up. It's going to be tough for Aberdeen because Jimmy Thelin has to change what he's doing if he's going to get back into this.
It's not been the best 48 minutes I've ever witnessed at Hampden, but Celtic and everyone concerned with Celtic will not be bothered with that, Gordon. It's all about winning a treble and, getting into half-time with the lead. I look at an Aberdeen team, and I totally agreed with the manager's tactics, going 5 frustrating. But I look at an Aberdeen team that they look like they believe that they can't win the Scottish Cup. Mark's right. The minute they get possession, they offer nothing. They've offered nothing in the second half. In the first half. They've been not a threat. You'd be disappointed. Now, the only positive I will give them, in the League Cup semi-final, this game was away from them. It was 3-0 at half-time. Today it's only 1, but they'll have to change. They'll have to change something. If they've any hope of getting back in this game, they'll have to change something, because if Celtic come out in the second half and score the next goal, then it's a case of how many.
Yeah, Mark, from a Celtic perspective, generally when we see a team struggling to break down a low block or whatever you refer to it these days, we talk about moving the ball a bit quicker. Is that maybe the main thing that's lacking, or Aberdeen actually, do they deserve a bit of credit for the way they've frustrated Celtic?
Well, they've filled the spaces well. That back 5, especially the centre backs that are right and left, are just mopping up the space. So any run that Engels makes into that hole, or if it's Bernardo the other side, they just step across, and you've got Milne there just taking care of Ida in the middle of the pitch, and it's a wee bit of cover for the guys in wide areas. If you're Celtic then and you're moving the ball quicker, eventually you need someone to go and eliminate an opponent, and whether that's Kuhn just running at Devlin and jinking past him, I think you need someone like that, and it was playing out that way that I was thinking Celtic needs someone a bit livelier, just to engage with somebody. What I want to is, now they started wee combinations in the middle of the pitch, and it was nice to watch at times, but never really got anywhere. Now that's credit to Aberdeen as well, but I think if you're Celtic, if you're Brendan Rodgers, you're asking for your front players to take a bit more responsibility in possession.
I agree with that. I don't think Celtic's front three have influenced the game at all. I know Maeda's had a couple of ones inside the full-back, the wing-back, and he's duffed his cross. Ida, we've not seen, but all fairness to him, he's not had a lot to go for. McGregor has dominated the 45 plus minutes, just nice and passing, taking it easy, taking his time. Aberdeen have been very difficult. The one thing that Aberdeen will be really disappointed, they've lost a goal from a set play, and it was a standing jump. It's poor defending from Aberdeen after putting all that much effort in it. But for me, they've got to show another side of them, get up the park and at least try and cause a problem.
Well, Brendan Rodgers will want more, and I'm sure he's telling his players that much during the break. However, it's Aberdeen with the big job to do. We will be back to Hampden after these.
action as it happens. And your reaction from 5 on the open line. This is Clyde 1 Super Scoreboard.
Celtic won at the National Stadium. Not a lot of goal scoring opportunities, but Celtic marked with 84% possession in the first half. Of course, it's about what you do with it and so on. But one thing's for sure, Aberdeen are going to need to change something to get back into this game.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised they've got that amount of possession, because you can see how far apart Aberdeen's backline is to their front two. Now, they've obviously worked in it, that they give up Callum McGregor and expect Keskinen and Nesbitt just to take care of him and drop off Carter Vickers and Scales and allow them to go side to side. But what that allows Celtic to do is continually change a point of attack, and they're not stopping Callum McGregor at all. So there's so much space, and that's why Celtic can control the ball. And then they find that Celtic, where they are finding it difficult, is when they get about 30 yards out, because Aberdeen are sitting in there nice and compact between the space between the goalkeeper and the back line. So look, if you're Jimmy Thelin, you can say we've come in here, we've lost one goal, we've not gave up many chances. I mean, how many times we've seen Celtic in the first 45 minutes get to a byline and cut back and goalkeepers make saves? Mitov's not had a save to make, so he's probably balancing that in his head just now. Should I stick and try and hang in this game, like I said before it, to the last 10-15 minutes and then go for it, or do I change just now and try and get more of the ball?
I think that's a big question for Aberdeen manager, because it is a difficult one. If he comes out early and he changes and he goes back to his back four and a 2-3-1 or whatever, and he tries to get pace up the top, Celtic are counter-attack on them, and all of a sudden this cup final's away from you.
Because in many ways Celtic would probably prefer Aberdeen to have a goal, wouldn't they?
100%. At one point I was thinking, I wonder if Brendan Rodgers would just sit off a little bit and let Aberdeen come to them and then go and break them down, because it's been very difficult. If I'm the Aberdeen manager, I'm sitting for another 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You're still in the cup final at 1-0. You're out at 2. Now, he may change it at half-time, I don't know. But me personally, I know they've offered absolutely nothing going forward. But I keep going back to it, the League Cup, they were gone. They were finished. They're still in this cup final, but they need to show more.
I mean, Mark, if you were to look at Celtic subs, they're all sort of like for like. Nothing there would change the game plan. Yang would come on for a winger, or Forrest would come on for a winger, or McCowan would come on for Bernardo. But what Aberdeen do have, at least, is scope. If Shayden Morris comes on, it's completely different from what they're doing just now. So you wonder if Jimmy Thelin would do it now, or as Gordon says, wait 10-15 minutes.
I would tend to agree with Gordon, as much as it isn't pleasing on the eye for the Aberdeen fans, and a lot of them will be scratching their heads thinking, well, we're just rolling over here without a real fight. I would probably agree with Daz to just hang in there, and you've got players like Daban, Shayden Morris and Papagay that you can come on and then have a real go once the game gets stretched. However, it is a big gamble. You are gambling on your back line continually bottom gaps, and you're gambling on giving space up 30 yards to your goal. We've seen Greg Taylor have a go. Now, can you afford to allow Paulo Bernardo or Engels or any guys like that, or even McGregor, when we've seen him sharp leader once, that space to have a shot at goal? And if it goes to, the cup final's away from you.
Well, a big half-time team talk for Jimmy Thelin. I'm sure Brendan Rodgers has something to add as well, so we will return and see what these teams offer when they come back onto the field here at Hampden. The second half of this Scottish Cup final is coming up next.
From Jill Scott's football coach giving up his weeknights to train her, to giving her tactics that will last a career. From making a young girl believe she can, to a debut. From playing for her country, to winning the big one on home soil, to...
Jill Scott was today made an MBE.
A little support can change the game. Win the chance to meet Jill, plus daily football match tickets. Cadbury game-changing wins. Grab a pack to enter.
T's and C's apply. UK and ROI 18+. Visit gamechanging.cadbury.co.uk to enter and for full T's and C's and price details. MPN for ROI.
Welcome on board Avanti West Coast Standard Premium.
With space to just be. Space to relax with roomier seats and extra legroom. Space on your guaranteed table to read, breathe, and let go. Until you stop, obviously. Get from A to Zen in Standard Premium. Book now for a more spacious journey on avantiwestcoast.co.uk/standard premium. Premium. T's and C's apply.
At Barclays, we run programmes that help communities across the UK. Whether you're a young person gaining skills to enter the workplace, a small business trying to grow and find its place in the modern world, or a girl in school building confidence on and off the pitch through football, we believe everyone deserves to fly. Search Barclays Communities to find out more. Barclays, here for every goal.
A Rayo Original Podcast.
What's up? We're Jordan and Perry. Join us on our brand new podcast, Brothers Uncovered, where the two of us and my big bro, Ashley Banjo, play our favourite game, Would You Rather, bringing conversations that are chaotic and sometimes morally questionable. Check out our Brothers Uncovered podcast now on the Rayo app, Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Clyde One Super Scoreboard Podcast with Trywire.com. Kick high prices to the curb. Drive away with huge savings. The fastest goals. The experts' opinions. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
We are back underway at Hampden Park between Aberdeen and Celtic in the Scottish Cup final. There are no changes for either side at half-time. There was an injury concern for Aberdeen. Alfie Dorrington, whose own goal it was that gives Celtic the lead, had a bit of a shoulder injury before the break, but he is back out and playing. Aberdeen have a deep free kick that they will take. Graham Shinney's left boot puts that one into the box. Caused a little bit of danger, but Celtic managing to come away with it. It's Hugh, Keevins and Scott Allan in the studio with me, Andrew Maclean, Gordon Duncan, Mark Wilson, Gordon Dalziel at Hampden.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard. Goal flashes with M&D Green Pharmacy. Get your essential medicines and vaccines before you head off on holiday.
Yes, a Celtic attack just there. Dalziel Maida's ball in from the left. Nicholas Kuhn did get contact on the cross with his left boot, but he was just under enough pressure from an Aberdeen defender that he was not able to get a clean shot away, and Mitov gathered.
Aberdeen created the chance themselves for Celtic, but with some poor defending. Second half, it's very, very simple and straightforward. If Celtic score a second goal, the final's over. If Aberdeen score out of the blue, then we have a game in our hands. And for me, Celtic have been the definition of lacklustre all over the park. It's been one of those days. Celtic are either dazzling, brilliant, or they kind of afternoons like this. They had one against St Mirren last week and James Forrest got them out of it. I said before the game started, James Forrest might be the man to turn negativity into positivity for Celtic today, because Aberdeen can't stand the sight of him. But all over the park for Celtic, middle to front in particular, lacklustre.
They've maybe not been at their flowing best, Scott, but it's not as if Aberdeen have been up to much, and Celtic do have that one goal lead that I'm sure they would have been very happy with at the start of the game, going into the second half for that one goal advantage.
Yeah, Celtic have been extremely comfortable. Obviously they have that advantage as Kuhn looks to come in there and play a 1-2 with Arne Engels. Listen, though, I think Brendan Rodgers will know that his side can go through the gears, and I think you will see that in Celtic in the second half. Like I said, I think Aberdeen, as the game goes on, they're going to have to change. They're going to have to go more attacking. Like I said, I think they'll make a few changes, but the changes could affect both teams. I think James Forrest coming on might give Celtic a different option in the wide areas. Obviously, naturally, Kuhn playing on the wrong side, he likes to come in where all the bodies are from Aberdeen, whereas James Forrest can go either way, likes to hit that byline and float balls into the cross and look for the cutback. So listen, the substitutions could have a huge impact in this game for both sides.
Were you surprised there were no changes at the break?
Yeah, I was surprised. He's obviously happy with it just being a one goal lead. Obviously still looking to maybe get a goal from a set piece or a counter attack, but listen, in terms of an attacking threat, there was virtually nothing from Aberdeen in that first half. The balls up to strikers weren't good enough, and when it did get there on the odd occasion, they didn't hold up well enough to bring other players into the game.
You have to bear in mind at the same time, though, that Celtic required an own goal to take the lead. That for me, I excuse Dalziel Maida, because how can you fault a man who's had the kind of season he's had? But for me, Celtic have to do more, and now they've given away, and it's Dalziel Maida, ironically, who's given away a foul in a dangerous area for Aberdeen.
Yeah, Ante Palaversa going down, and that could be Leighton Clarkson free kick territory, do you think?
Absolutely. He's so obviously shown he's got quality from that area. He's got a lovely strike on him. Seen him score many a free kick for Aberdeen. So listen, he'll fancy this one.
Yeah, his eyes certainly will light up. It is, would you say, around 25 yards from that Celtic goal. It would take a spectacular effort still to beat a goalkeeper of the quality of Kasper Schmeichel, but Leighton Clarkson is the type of player that you'd think would back himself. He's standing one hand on his hip, the other with the ball, and just ready to place it down, working out exactly what he's going to do with this free kick as Kasper Schmeichel sorts out his wall.
Set pieces may be Aberdeen's best chance of getting anything out of this game. So here is their best chance of the game 50 minutes into the final. Free kick, Leighton Clarkson.
Yeah, he will take his time just to work out exactly what he's going to do. Celtic just taking their time to sort out this wall. Daisen Maeda lying down behind the wall, the old draft excluder.
I'll never understand that. That's for you young people.
That's in case the wall jumps you and you go under it.
Goes for it, right-footed Leighton Clarkson. It was on target, but didn't have enough pace on it to trouble Kasper Schmeichel.
No, it's a shot on target. It's a shot on target.
Yeah, they're first. So,
listen, there's a nice shape on it, but it's never going to be. You have to have a lot more pace on that to beat Schmeichel from there.
Do you want me to say it will finish 1-0 and then there'll be another goal?
Yes, go on here.
But 10 minutes from now, Brendan Rodgers will make a triple substitution because there are too many players just having a too quiet, ineffectual day of it all.
But even at that, it's not as if they've really been troubled by Aberdeen at all.
He demands his own standard, doesn't he, Brendan Rodgers, when he expects more from his side.
The fact that Aberdeen are rotten doesn't come into the equation for me. You have to look at yourself. It's a cup final that offers you a treble, a world record breaking 9th treble, a 3rd treble for Brendan Rodgers, first man in the club's history. You have got to demand more of your own team, and Celtic for 50 minutes have been a bore.
Free kick to Celtic in the centre circle. I think Kevin Nisbet just went to try and hook the ball over his own shoulder, but ended up kicking Cameron Carter-Vickers in the cheek, caught him in the face as he stooped down to get that header, and Celtic can restart from that centre circle position, work the ball out to Alistair Johnston.
Now, Alistair Johnston, terrific player for Celtic, and we know that the creation of goals that he's been involved in, but there's nothing coming from anyone.
Well, here he is, Alistair Johnston with a lovely ball that time. It was almost the Hugh Keevins curse once again. That one was going across the face of goal, and it took the left boot of Jack Milne to clear it away and stop Celtic tapping that one in.
I think in days like today you really see the value in how effective Rio Hatate is for this team, and the positions he picks up and the creativity he has on the ball. Yes, sometimes they don't come off, but he's always looking to find the threaded passes through and get guys running forward towards the opposition goal.
Nicholas Kuhn with the in-swinging left-footed corner. Daisen Maeda was in at the front post trying to get the header, but that one goes over the Aberdeen bar.
Well, if anyone deserves a goal to round off the season, it's Maeda, who has been Celtic's best man, and on a consistent basis where others have shone briefly and then faded. But at 1-0, Celtic are not anything like over the line.
Yeah, Aberdeen trying to get forward that time, Celtic defending well, and not only that, then trying to now take advantage of the fact that Aberdeen had piled a few bodies forward. They're having to get back as Daisen Maeda has a couple of Aberdeen players for company.
It looks as if Aberdeen are trying to commit some more bodies forward there, but that's the one thing when they do. If they don't, then if they aren't obviously accurate with the pass, Celtic are looking to punish them straight away. It's the first time we've maybe seen Maeda in a while look to get the 1v1 that wide area.
There must come a point, Scott, when you try and do something for yourselves. I've never seen a cup handed to a team who lost 1-0. So the Aberdeen have to reach a stage in the match where
trying to strike that balance though of not doing it too early in the game. If you open up too early and then essentially big chance you concede, and then at 2-0 a lot of people would just expect that Aberdeen are completely out the game. If they can keep it at 1 for a bit longer, maybe leave it a bit later to open up and push.
I can fully understand why that might be the case, but I just think, is this the game now that let's not try to win it until we reach a certain point?
well, maybe this is the move that Aberdeen are going to make. Pat Gay is getting some instructions now and will be the first Aberdeen substitute.
He'll get a warm welcome from the Celtic fans after his involvement in the Reo Hatate business.
Yeah, of course, it was his challenge that means Reo Hatate was unavailable for this game, was unavailable for Trophy Day as well last weekend.
Yeah.
And that's another just lack of quality that time from Celtic. A long ball forward just straight into the arms of Dimitar Mitov.
Maeda doing what he does. He's the hardest working man in show business.
It must just be such a dream for teammates to see him battling back and winning possession. It's now Adamida. The ball played down the left channel for him. Now just waiting for the support of his teammates.
They literally ate up that ground as if it was nothing.
Yeah.
So it's 51st Celtic game of the season, I think, for Daisen Maeda. He still looks as fit really as he did in game 1 of the season.
Well, as I say, I think after what we've got now, 55 minutes, 5 minutes from now, triple substitution to see if there's anyone who can bring this game to life.
Paulo Bernardo just twisting on the ball outside the Aberdeen box, looking for that pass. Plays a 1-2 with Nicholas Kuhn. Celtic just have allowed themselves with that goal. Just the patience, not having to rush the ball forward. But the Celtic crowd will be hoping that they can push forward and try and make this a memorable scoreline and a memorable performance to go along with what they're hoping will be a treble winning performance and result.
The crowd will know in their minds that if Celtic score a second goal, and I mean everybody in the crowd, red or green, will know that a second goal for Celtic is the end of the picture. But
good ball forward by Alistair Johnson. Adamida gets in behind the Aberdeen defence, tries to get that cross into the box, but it's Jack Milne who's managed to get his body in the way quite a few times so far in this game.
To be fair to Adamida, not a word of criticism, because he's got absolutely zero service. And now here's Papagay.
And it will be Topi Keskinen that makes way for him, so it will be a different type of option.
They'd be looking to hold the ball up. To hold the ball up, Andrew. They just haven't done it well enough between Nesbitt and Keskinen. He also offers that more physical presence up there. He'll be looking to get the ball into him and get players running off him, give them a chance to go up, create some chances.
Because Keskinen's been in that area. You think the intention is for Aberdeen just to have that pace to go in behind. First of all, to press the Celtic defence, but also try and get in behind when they can. But he's not really had any opportunity to do that, or even to really carry the ball forward.
No, he hasn't, because naturally you want the ball to go up to your striker, and then Keskinen get around him and then carry the ball. Because the balls up have been lacking a bit of quality, they haven't managed to do it, but especially the first 55 minutes of this game. So Papagay obviously offers a different physical option for them, where you would expect him to win some of the battles between Scales and Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Daisen Maeda just punished for a foul on Dimitar Mitov there. He just went to punt the ball up the park, and I think Daisen Maeda didn't quite make a challenge there. He just kind of ran into his
I think he tried to
path.
get out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that very odd decision.
Yes, certainly adjudged to have obstructed Dimitar Mitov. Yeah. But play will resume in that Aberdeen backline. Mitov playing it to Shinnie, and Aberdeen not opting initially to go long, but they've done well actually to get this ball forward, and Gay gets his first chance, a 1-2 with Kevin Nisbet, and this is probably the best spell of possession that Aberdeen have had in terms of getting the ball forward, but that pass was just too wayward, wasn't it, to keep the pressure on, although they do still have the ball out on the right side.
Celtic are, there's a real danger of an Aberdeen equaliser, I think, because Celtic are just too lackadaisical and lacklustre for their own good.
You say real danger.
Yeah.
They've not created anything, and have they? The ball into the box, it was cleared by Liam Scales there, but I don't think the Celtic backline will feel under any real pressure at the moment, or any under real danger, despite the fact that Aberdeen managed to work the ball forward there. It was just a poor pass out to the right that kind of shot themselves in the foot.
But that's it in a nutshell. They have a couple of 1-2s to get into a promising area, and then a simple 10-yard pass out wide is then overhit.
But in the meantime, the team in the lead, thanks to an own goal, are too lackadaisical and lacklustre to score a second one. Therefore, the chances of an equaliser increase.
But then is it also that Aberdeen are too lacklustre and lackadaisical to do anything at the other end as well?
That remains to be seen.
Is this at the point you'd imagine Brendan Rodgers will be looking behind him to work out exactly what the moves are to try and get Celtic ahead further?
McCowan, Forrest and Yang.
I think Brendan Rodgers will be a bit frustrated with how the team started the second half. I don't think they have the same zip about them. I think come about 60 minutes, 65, I think you might see maybe a double substitution and someone to come on and impact this game and maybe give Celtic a bit more impetus, because they're it's a bit predictable at this moment in time from Celtic in terms of an attacking sense. Ball goes wide, comes back into pitch, work it round the other side, and Aberdeen are just shifting it. As much as they're not looking to be a massive goal threat in terms of handling what Celtic are throwing at them. They are to a certain extent.
By predictable, do you mean lackadaisical and lacklustre?
Go with that, Hugh. I like that.
Yeah, that was a wayward pass from Alistair Johnson. Just a couple of the Celtic players not on the same wavelength as he went to try and play the ball in behind for Paulo Bernardo, and he gives the ball away. A few minutes before that, Mats Knuster had tried to play the ball out the Aberdeen defence and done the same, and you just see both teams not having that quality on the ball at the moment. 60 minutes on the clock.
Well, Bernardo, he'd be the first one off for me. Get Luke McCowan on.
Well, Adamida has won the ball back for Celtic. Doesn't have an option over to the left where there is a lot of space, but Celtic do still have the bodies to try and create something.
Adamida has worked hard just to get the ball, see what he can do. He's frustrated by the lack of service to him, but he's worked his socks off. And how Papagay breaking forward, but I mean, surrounded by Celtic players.
Does he already look a more positive influence than maybe Nisbet and Keskinen had been in the first half? Because even at that, he doesn't create anything, but he at least gets Aberdeen 30-40 yards up the park by making that run. He's then causing Celtic a physical challenge there and winning Aberdeen a free kick down the left in a good crossing position. Yeah,
and that's the basics I was talking about. If you are playing with five at the back, when the ball then goes up to your striker, he has to protect it. Papagay has come on, he obviously travelled there with the ball, wins a throw and the ball then goes into him. Johnson can't get round him, fouls him, buys a free kick, and it gives Aberdeen a chance to get back into the game in a promising area. Leighton Clarkson, obviously we spoke about how delivery. It's a real chance for Aberdeen, especially from these set pieces.
Yeah, left side of the box, it will be the right foot of Leighton Clarkson. Is it one of these that you just fire in with a lot of pace and hope that it hits off as someone and goes past Kasper Schmeichel? He is going to do that, and it's a flicked header by Kevin Nisbet, maybe one of those that came off his shoulder or his back and over the Celtic bar.
But the equaliser's coming.
It's just, listen, Kevin Nisbet doesn't get a run on it. He's in there waiting on the ball, so it's quite hard sometimes to redirect that on target. Listen, we know I think these areas of the park will be crucial as the game goes on. If the score stays 1-0, does come off his shoulder there, as you seen, that could have been a chance for Aberdeen.
Yeah, not the clean contact that Kevin Nisbet would have wanted. That will go down as a half chance for Aberdeen, but it really is one of the better chances they've had. They've not carved out a whole lot in this game, as Adamida did his job and managed to just drop deep and lay the ball off for Callum McGregor. Wins a free kick for Celtic.
As his biggest critic, Ida is the only one that looks to have a bit of enthusiasm about him. And
there we go.
Well, there are the changes.
Forrest,
and tell you
Yang,
what, a Hugh Keevins spot on prediction, a hat-trick of correct predictions for the substitutions there. It will be James Forrest, it will be Yang, and it will be Luke McCowan that all come on for Celtic.
Because the three who are coming off are all rotten on the day. And Celtic, Brendan Rodgers knows that an Aberdeen equaliser could be on the cards here because his own team are so ineffectual.
Do you think it's Maeda that's coming off? Chance for Celtic. That one comes off the post, and Celtic's so close to doubling their lead at Hampden, but the width of the post means that it remains 1-0.
Do you think I could be Brendan Rodgers' assistant if I can do the subs like that?
A chance. A snapshot on the turn there from Daisen Maeda is caught by Mitov. So do you think it'll be Maeda, Kuhn and Bernardo, or do you think it could be Ida and Maeda moves through the middle?
It would be unfortunate if it was Adamida, because I say he's the only one who's shown any enthusiasm. Arne Engels is going off, I think. Kuhn should go off.
He was certainly showing frustration there, Engels, because it was his shot, left-footed, curling low. Dimitar Mitov was diving, comes off the post, and Nicholas Kuhn is applauding the Celtic supporters as he makes his way off. It'll be his final action of the season. James Forrest coming on.
Who was your free here?
To come off, Kuhn, I think he'll possibly take Ida off, although it's unfair on him.
There will be Adam Ida that makes his way off the park.
Get Maeda through the middle, and Engels. There you go.
Arne Engels is the other to come off. And in fairness, when you look at Dyson Maeda, of course, across the season, he has been fantastic. The goal threat he is, see, especially in domestic cup competitions. What about this for a record? I'm not sure there'll be many players that have quite had a domestic cup season like this in Scotland. In the League Cup, he played 3 games, scored 6 goals. In the Scottish Cup, before today, 4 games, 7 goals. That's an incredible return, isn't it, across those 2 competitions?
You keep him on the pitch because he's your most likely goal threat. Listen, I think Hugh's correct in what he says about Adam Ida. I think Adam Ida's been good today. He's not really had anything in behind for him to chase or latch on to, but in terms of getting the ball in tight areas surrounded by obviously 2 ridges, banks of Aberdeen defences, he's actually took the ball in well. His link-up play has been good. He's just not had a sniff at goal, and that's largely on the creation from the midfield areas.
Arne Engels not hiding his frustration there, a shake of his head sitting on the bench, then burying his head inside his shirt. Maybe feels he could have done more, or maybe he's just thinking about that chance towards right at the end of his game where he hit the post with that left-footed shot.
Well, those who have come off have no grounds for complaint. Brendan Rodgers is trying to shake some life into his team on a cup final day. With all that's at stake for Celtic, all that should be incentivising Celtic, and they have not played well at all, and they're only in front because of an own goal.
Yeah, Dimitar Mitov hasn't had too many saves to make, really. He's not been tested too much, neither has Kasper Schmeichel at the other end. It's not quite been the showpiece occasion that we would all hope for.
Not quite.
To round off the season.
It's the second final I've watched this week in terms of not being a classic.
I'm astonished actually by just how impoverished Celtic's display has been, given all the incentives that they have. But James Forrest right away involved.
Yeah, just trying to find his way into the box. Attempted a 1-2 with Luke McCowan that didn't come off, and now Aberdeen with a chance to get forward. Kevin Nisbet carrying the ball. There's an option at the back post from this cross. It was actually going towards Kevin Nisbet, and Liam Scales hanging his left leg out for a clearance. It's one of those that could really go anywhere if you don't get it right. Manages to slice it away though for an Aberdeen corner.
Yeah, it was the first bit of real positive play from Kevin Nisbet, obviously winning the ball deep in his own half, driving, playing the ball out wide and then sprinting to get in the box, and listen, Scales deals with it. It wasn't especially a great clearance, but it was put into a real dangerous area where Kevin Nisbet can put the ball away.
The Aberdeen players are growing in confidence. You can see it. They're growing in confidence because they know that Celtic are having a real off day.
They do have a few physical presences in that box. They're unable to make the most of it from that corner, and Celtic will carry the ball away. Luke McCowan finding James Forrest, and a chance for Celtic on the break. Yang breaking his neck to get forward in the middle, and he will receive the ball from James Forrest. A big chance here for Celtic. It's Yang just unable to really sort his feet out inside the box, and his shot's blocked.
That's the directness that James Forrest brings you.
Yeah, as I said to you, he turns negativity into positivity. In his 16th season, he's trying to put some life into Celtic, who have been lifeless all day long.
Here he is again. James Forrest decides to go out wide to Alistair Johnston before getting the ball back, and it's a flick round the corner from Dyson Maeda. I'm not sure that Alistair Johnston was the intended target at first. They'll fall to his feet, and his shot was blocked.
But
you can see the injection that the substitutes have had. You even look at that breakaway. Forrest and Yang, both of them just direct, using their pace to get forward, knowing that they want to take this opportunity and try and put the game to bed.
That's why I said that those who are taking off have no grounds for complaint whatsoever. You can sit there with your face tripping you on the bench and bury your head in your shirt and all the rest of it. You're off because you didn't deserve to be on.
70 minutes on the clock. It is still Aberdeen 0, Celtic 1. That Alfie Dorrington own goal is the difference between the teams. That came just at the end of the first half. Apart from that, if you're only just joining us, you haven't missed a whole lot else from this game. But Celtic attempting to try and put this game to bed, but Paulo Bernardo with his ball attempting to play it across the box, just slicing it into the arms of Dimitar Mitov as Jack Milne goes down and is feeling it a bit. Not sure if it's cramp or something else, but he's looking towards the bench and towards the physios.
I'd be thinking of some way to take Paulo Bernardo off. I mean, he has been a lame duck the whole day, and that, whatever that was that an attempted goal or a cross or
That's
what was
a cross. He's miscued it.
What do you think the thinking behind taking Engels off ahead of Bernardo was?
Listen, I think it could have been a toss-up between the two of them in terms of the impact on the game. I don't think either of them have really looked to take the bull by the horns, as they would say, and look to go and extend Celtic's lead. I think it's an area of the park, like I said. I think Hatate's a massive loss, and when a player who's week in, week out as a starter for Celtic, that's an opportunity in a cup final to come in and really stamp your authority and say to the manager for next season, in the big stages, I'm ready to come in and play for you. And I feel between Engels and Bernardo today, neither of them have really said to the manager, I'm here to be the main man in midfield.
You look beyond the Celtic substitutes that have come on in terms of the outfield players. It's not as if there's huge options in terms of game changers. As we mentioned earlier on, you do get one less place on the bench, one less substitute on the bench in the Scottish Cup rather than the league, so it's only 8 instead of 9. So you've got Austin Trusty left, Jeffrey Schlupp's there, Anthony Ralston's there, and Johnny Kenny is the other.
Well, Johnny Kenny will not come on. There's no room for Johnny Kenny. There might be, as I say, Paulo Bernardo is so ineffective. I'd be thinking of a way to reconstruct, whether it's putting Schlupp in the middle of the park or whatever, I don't know, but he's had a terrible final.
Pape Gueye doing well to win the header, showing that physical presence. And there could have been a mix-up in the Celtic defence there. Leighton Clarkson was ready to pounce, but a combination of, I think, was it Alistair Johnson, Liam Scales, and eventually Cameron Carter-Vickers getting the ball away.
Yeah, scrambled it away. Surprised at the goalkeeper there, the Aberdeen goalkeeper, slicing the ball out the park. And don't want to give Celtic any encouragement, but that's a foul on Forrest.
I think it was Alistair Johnson, wasn't it, that was breaking forward, goes down under the challenge of Leighton Clarkson. Celtic will have a free kick in. Well, I think they've taken it quickly, and there's a chance here inside the box. The left-footed shot from James Forrest is blocked, and the follow-up just over the Aberdeen bar. Celtic almost profiting from taking that quickly, Taylor. And it was almost that moment for Greg Taylor.
He has been so unlucky, Greg Taylor. 2 magnificent efforts on goal. Maybe he knows it's his last game and he's determined to go out on the ultimate high.
Not an easy one to take that either, was it, from Greg Taylor? It was at a bit of an awkward height, fell to him on his left foot, and it's probably the same distance over the bar as the one he hit in the first half.
Yeah, not an easy one, but not a very difficult one either, Andrew. I think with the ones you just about obviously taught from a young age to keep your knee over the ball and kind of direct it downwards. Unfortunately, it just goes over the bar from Greg Taylor. But he said 2 efforts today have been not far away at all. Listen, it's
actually, Alfie Dorrington does manage to get his head on it and flicks it over the bar. It could have caused Dimitar Mitov some real problems behind him. The referee did spot that, or certainly it was Don Robertson or one of his assistants spotted it, and it will be a corner to Celtic taken by Luke McCowan, and it actually dropped into the 6-yard box, but luckily for Aberdeen it dropped to the feet of a defender and not a Celtic attacker, and they were able to get the ball away.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Luke McCowan was that gave the ball away and has recovered very well, and probably would have won a free kick, but Don Robertson playing the advantage.
Yeah, you know, he'd done the old hand up to the crowd as if apologies. He recovered really well after giving that ball away.
Forrest into Bernardo. You think James Forrest will be desperate to make a mark on this final. He's already had a positive influence on the team, along with the other substitutes that have come onto the pitch, but just given his history at the club, he would love to score another big goal for Celtic.
Yeah, but extra time coming up.
You still convinced Aberdeen will get an equaliser?
Yeah.
They've not been out of their own half for the past 5-10 minutes.
You mark my words.
You did get the substitution prediction correct, in fairness, but
it's a bit different.
That is it's a big call. You're not feeling the same. There will be a couple more substitutions for Aberdeen as well.
Well, it's do or die time for Aberdeen now. I mean, we have surely reached the stage where you don't abandon defence, but you have to do more of a positive nature, because the cup final has 15 regulation minutes to go, and Celtic will play all day without scoring. So now is your chance. Now the bugles are blowing.
Yeah, it's going to be Dante Polvara and Christos Tobers that are coming on for Aberdeen.
Incredible that Aberdeen are still in with a chance of this final. They have been poor. They have lost 4 games in the bounce going into this final, but Celtic are dire.
Yeah, that was poor from, was it Luke McCowan or Paulo Bernardo that gave the ball away inside the Celtic half?
It's death wish time with Celtic. They're going from bad to worse.
Yeah, Greg Taylor with the pass that didn't make it to a Celtic shirt that time, but it goes out for a throw-in.
It could be one of the days where Celtic obviously do the treble, but in terms of the actual game itself in isolation, they haven't had to perform anywhere near the levels to, yes, to get the goal from the deflection, but Aberdeen just haven't offered anything in terms of a threat.
There was just a close-up of Callum McGregor there where he was doing that sort of calm down motion to the team. Maybe thinks his teammates are just rushing the passes a little bit, making the wrong choices in possession.
It's certainly untypical of Celtic's season. Now they have a chance here.
Yeah, it's Yang who flicks the ball to Luke McCowan. It comes out to, is that James Forrest? It is. That distinctive running style that he's got is headed out at the back post by Alfie Dorrington, who has really been in the wars so far today. He's gone down a few times. He's got himself back up. He headed the ball out there for a Celtic corner and he was limping about, but he's putting his body on the line to try and get Aberdeen back into this game, or at least try and keep the scoreline down.
If there is a goal for Celtic, it will come with James Forrest at its core, either as the scorer or the creator, because he's the only bright spark for Celtic.
Paulo Bernardo with the in-swinging corner this time, taking over duties from Arne Engels. Comes to James Forrest, and it will be a chance for them to get the ball back in from that right side. It's a lovely reverse pass from James Forrest into Callum McGregor, and Celtic have another corner.
That's the one thing between James Forrest and Kuhn. Kuhn's so predictable, obviously always wants to come in on his left foot, and you can then as a full back playing against him, if you show him one way, you know he's going to find problems because he always wants to come in his left foot. James Forrest, a different prospect totally, because when he squares you up, you don't know if he's going to come in on his left or go down his right, and he's already shown that, and his time on the pitch so far caused him problems.
Bernardo with another delivery, that one clawed away by Dimitar Mitov. It's all looked for a second as if it was going to be quite a comfortable catch for him, but maybe just judged it slightly wrong. It was going a bit higher than he thought, but still managed to get the ball away as Aberdeen.
Triple substitution.
Yeah, triple substitution. I think Christos Tobers, who looked as if he was going to come on, is sat down. Probably unsurprising with Aberdeen chasing the game at this point, that they've opted to go down a different route. Dante Polvara will still come on, but Shaden Morris and Ode Dabag will be the other two. So it is the final roll of the dice from Jimmy Tillene.
And it's what he had to do. So Celtic have to negotiate 12 regulation minutes. Celtic do not look as if they will score for themselves today. They're in front because of an own goal. So Jimmy Tillene, this is the chance for extra time now.
Yeah, Kevin Nisbet, one of those coming off. Leighton Clarkson, one of the others.
Well, Nisbet, he just didn't get any help to be a threat. But, you know, this is the Aberdeen team now. This is the
change of shape here.
This is the death or glory team now.
No surprise, Alfie Dorrington is the final to make way for Shaden Morris. He's been in the wars. He took a knock to his shoulder just before half time. He's been limping around for quite a bit of this second half. So that triple change by Jimmy Talleen has been made just over 10 minutes to go, and seems to be a bit of confusion about something going on at the moment. I'm not quite sure what it is. If Aberdeen, are they going to make a fourth change as well here?
It looks like
they hadn't made.
What is going on?
I don't know, because it's Ante Palaversa that is there, who started the game, and he seemed to come off the bench. And did 4 players go off and 3 players came on? Is that what happened there? Because certainly we saw. Yeah, I think Aberdeen accidentally substituted off 4 players and 3 came on, because Ante Palaversa was one that certainly looked as if he went to the bench, but Leighton Clarkson went off, Kevin Nisbet went off, and Alfie Dorrington went off as well. So a bit of confusion. They were almost accidentally playing the final 10 minutes
I think he ran off
with 10 men.
I don't know.
That would have been quite something if they hadn't noticed, but someone certainly noticed.
It's consistent with the kind of day we've had. Don't even know how many players are on the park.
Well, we do know now that it is 11 aside. Both teams have made a good few changes, and we'll see what impact those 3 changes for Aberdeen make in the final 10 minutes, plus whatever injury time we've got. We've not had too many stoppages in the second half so far, so as it stands I wouldn't imagine there would be too much, but you never know, there may be late drama at Hampden.
Well, every possibility, because Aberdeen have got the team on now to chase the equaliser, to give us extra time, and I'll need to do it, Scott. I need to do it. Celtic will play all day and not score for themselves.
Will Aberdeen score for themselves?
Yes.
It's another bold Hugh Keevins prediction.
You see, you're shaking your shoes, you two, because you think he might be right.
The thing is, you got the ball. There's a mistake in Paulo Bernardo giving the ball away. Pat Gay has the chance to muscle his way into the Celtic box, and he does really well to shrug off the challenge of Cameron Carter-Vickers, plays the ball into the box. Dabag unable to get the contact, but they've just managed to cause a bit of chaos in that Celtic box.
Celtic are dire. There's just no other way of putting it. For a cup final, they are dire.
When you talk about giving the team, the opposition, a lift, it's came twice from Paulo Bernardo in the middle of the park in areas where he should not give the ball away, and Aberdeen right onto this mistake and looking to go and cause the Celtic defence a bit of problems. That's twice in the same area where Bernardo 5-10 yard passes, really sloppy.
There you are.
Shayden Morris, a wonderful ball across the box, and Aberdeen have an equaliser.
There you are.
Goal flashes with M&D Green Pharmacy.
And it's another own goal. It was Shayden Morris's ball across the face of goal, and Kasper Schmeichel came for it down low, but he could only divert it into his own goal. It's Aberdeen 1, Celtic 1, and with less than 10 minutes to go, it's all square in the Scottish Cup final.
Aberdeen will go on and win it now. There you are. I did say they will equalise. You mocked, you scorned, you laughed.
Just questioned, that was all.
But Aberdeen have equalised, and they'll go on and win the cup now.
Well, I did say Shayden Morris would have an impact in the game if he was going to come on. He would be one of their biggest threats, because he has that directness about him, has a sheer pace which would worry. He just puts into an area, doesn't he?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's poor from Kasper Schmeichel. He comes for it. That looks like the type of thing that he'd deal with all day long, really, just get his palm on it, but somehow it manages to deflect off his hand or his wrist and goes underneath him and deflects into the back of the net. He'll be really disappointed with that, Kasper Schmeichel.
It's as if he tries to sweep it away with his hand, doesn't he? That awkward angle, and it actually goes back on him. Exactly what it is. Listen, but it all comes from that. You get a lift as an opposition player when a Celtic player 10 yards from his 18 yard box is giving you the ball back, a 5 yard sloppy pass, especially when there's 10 minutes to go in a cup final.
I told you it'd be extra time.
Yeah, you're right, Hugh.
In the first half, I told you it'd be extra time.
The changes have worked for Aberdeen. Not only Shayden Morris there, but you also look at the impact that Pat Gay has had as well. Every time he's been involved, it's been really positive. And in the lead up to that goal, there was a second phase of play after that where the ball went back out to Shayden Morris, but there was a large part played by Pat Gay just keeping the ball which was a big thing that Aberdeen weren't able to do in the first half.
Yeah, and when you are playing obviously in that defensive shape, when it goes up there, it's so important, as we said, to get players into areas to then go and give you an attacking threat, and they've certainly done that in the last 15 minutes. And I think 5 minutes to go of normal time. This will be interesting to see how Celtic react from this, because out with James Forrest, there hasn't really been anything of an attacking threat at all.
No. There is just a pause in play after this goal. I don't think there's any check going on or anything. The goal looked all good, but I think the Aberdeen supporters sort of spilled onto the track round the Hampden pitch and were celebrating. Some of them even, I think, got over the second advertising hoarding and were celebrating with the Aberdeen players. So it's a case of making sure they get all back into their seats and into position, and then Don Robertson will be able to get this game back underway, which we have done. So it is 85 minutes on the clock. It's Aberdeen 1, it's Celtic 1, and it's all to play for in this Scottish Cup final.
Well, I've been right all afternoon, and I repeat, Aberdeen are going to win the cup now. So
see what Celtic throw at them.
Yeah, that will be a huge wake-up call for these Celtic players. The momentum is now with Aberdeen. They looked in the ascendancy, certainly even just for a few moments after those substitutions. Positive changes from Jimmy Talleen.
Will it be a Tom Rogic-esque last minute winner again?
No.
But Celtic had just become slack in that midfield. I think that full sequence of play came from that Paulo Bernardo slack pass, didn't it? And loads happened in between that pass and Aberdeen scoring, but it did just come from there being no danger for Celtic whatsoever. They had possession in their own half. It should have been pretty straightforward for them to be able to hold on to it, but Paulo Bernardo just giving the ball to Aberdeen, and then they still had plenty of work to do to get the goal, but they managed it, and a big helping hand literally from Kasper Schmeichel and all that.
Inexplicable, unfathomable mistake by the goalkeeper, who has been terrific for Celtic all season long, but that was a criminal attempt at keeping the ball out of the net. And Aberdeen now, I hope they win it in regulation time, because the thought of another half hour of this is too much, but Aberdeen will go on and win the cup now.
It's just very uncharacteristic of Kasper Schmeichel, wasn't it?
Yeah, listen, goalkeepers are the same as players. You will, over the course of a season, you'll all make a mistake somewhere along the line. Unfortunately for Kasper Schmeichel, it's happened at the most important time of the season, obviously looking to secure another treble. I think it was maybe 7 minutes to go as he made the mistake, and as if he does that sweeping action, he could fall on top of it.
It's not really as if there's anyone in front of him distracting him. Sometimes you think that with a goalkeeper, that maybe their line of sight, or they don't see the ball coming across, but there wasn't really any obstruction with the ball coming towards him.
I'm not an expert on terms of goalkeeping technique, but listen, I think he's got to do better, no question. But I feel in terms of Celtic, the middle of the park, when you're in the opposition side and you can see a player looks nervous, and Paulo Bernardo has looked nervous these last 20 minutes. He's not performed at all today for Celtic. Every time the ball goes into him now, the Aberdeen players were round about him, pressing him, trying to nick the ball off him, knowing there's a mistake there. But then when you do make the ones, you expect your goalkeeper, someone with a wealth of experience, to dig you out. And unfortunately for Celtic, he's redirected it into his own net. And listen, Aberdeen's tails are up now.
Yeah, the Aberdeen fans look as if they're having a party now, jumping around.
That's because they know that they're going to win the cup. And the Celtic crowd are silent because they know that their team couldn't fight sleep at the moment.
Do they know they're going to win the cup, or are they just optimistic because their team have got into the game late on and have scored an equaliser?
They know.
Optimistic.
If their predictions are anything like yours, I wouldn't be holding out much hope for them, but they are certainly the team that has been in the ascendancy. They've got that goal. It is all square, and it is anyone's game now at Hampden. Anything could happen. Both teams have made their changes, and Celtic will get a good chance from a crossing position from a free kick as Yang is hacked down by Jensen.
Done really well there, Yang. Slowed it, then sped up again. Jensen couldn't deal with his pace.
An interesting elbow strap that he's got on him. You don't see that very often, but he's just clattered into by Jensen, and Celtic will have you'd expect that will be an in-swinging free kick from Paulo Bernardo 89 minutes on the clock. What a time this would be for Celtic to score. They've done it in Scottish Cup finals before. They scored a late winner last year. You talked about that Tom Rogic goal as well at this end at Hampden. And it's Bernardo's ball towards the back post, and they're never going to score a goal with deliveries like that. Goes over everyone and out for a goal kick.
Do you want me to say play all day again?
Genuinely going to have to think about changing him. I think he's went.
Yeah. But I think Brendan Rodgers knows that it's going to extra time, so he's, it'll happen then.
Well, good to see Jack McKenzie making his way onto the park after he was struck with that seat against Dundee United. It was thrown by an Aberdeen supporter after that pitch invasion. He's had stitches to his face. You can still see the wounds on there as he's standing on the touchline ready to come on for Nicky Devlin, but good to see that he is fit and available and able to come on and play his part in this game for the 7 minutes, minimum 7 minutes of injury time, plus potentially extra time as well.
When you see the dressing over Jack McKenzie's eye, you realise how close we came to a tragedy within Scottish football, and that's why I say the authorities, Police Scotland, have got to mount better action against this kind of thing, because we are in deep trouble in this country with this kind of behaviour. But anyway, 7 minutes added on. Ordinarily you would say, favours Celtic, the grandstand finish, etc., but they are poor.
It does kind of look as if Aberdeen have dropped deeper again, and you would maybe expect that to be the pattern of this final few minutes. If Celtic can get their foot in the ball, that Aberdeen just will naturally drop further and further back, which probably will frustrate Jimmy Tilleen, because they looked to be the team that were more likely to score. They then did score, but Celtic now pinning Aberdeen back. James Forrest getting to the byline and wins a corner for Celtic.
Well, they're mounting the big finish to try and avoid extra time. They've got 5 minutes in which to do so. But why would they score now, given all that they've done throughout the rest of the game?
They've done it before, Hugh.
Yes, Celtic have been injury time goal specialists for quite a while, and can they do something here as Pat Gay uses his strength just to nudge Alistair Johnson off the ball
and then kicks it away,
but it will be a goal kick to Aberdeen.
End of his game now, Scott?
Yeah, listen, I think some bad times there from Papa Gay. Alistair Johnson still feel that. Listen, I think in terms of the last 5 minutes of this game, I think you'll see kind of similar. Celtic obviously looking to get down the wide areas, but I think you seen there when they did get the combinations round the edge of the box, it went to James Forrest. There was just so many bodies packed within that box, and red shirts looking to get putting their bodies on the line. That's going to be real difficult for Celtic to break them down.
Well,
a chance here potentially. Daisen Maeda has broken through. He is 1-on-1, and Daisen Maeda doesn't score. It's a big save from Dimitar Mitov to deny the man who has been the top player in Scotland this season. He was bearing down on goal. It's the type of chance that you thought he would take, but he doesn't manage it.
It's a really poor finish from Daisen Maeda.
He did it at Ibrox when he was 1-on-1 with Liam Kelly, and attempted some. Was it Jack Butland who played that day?
Liam Kelly.
He tried some bizarre move of going round the goalkeeper, but he should have scored there. He had the cup final in his hand, and I'm afraid that's symbolic of what's happening here. The player of the year, deservedly so, has blown the chance to, and James Forrest is saying if he'd passed it to me, it's a tap in.
Johnny Kenny said the same thing.
Yeah, so
there was no conviction in the finish. I think going through there, maybe even throw a little jink in to sit the goalkeeper down a bit. He actually hits the ball into the ground. He'll be really disappointed with that. That could have been the chance there to seal it for Celtic.
Yeah, could Aberdeen create a big chance of their own? They're up the other end. Shaden Morris, who's already caused problems down the right, does brilliantly to almost race away from two Celtic players, but Greg Taylor sliding in, and it will be a corner to Aberdeen. It is end-to-end stuff in injury time.
Here it comes. I said they would go on and win the cup. Here it comes.
Will the Aberdeen fans behind the goal, all dressed in red, will be hopeful that they can do something from this corner? Can they create something? You just look at the atmosphere in that end the arms being thrown up in the air in encouragement, hoping that this can be the delivery from Palaversa. Did mention they do have aerial threats in there, they do have physical presences, but they haven't really managed to use them too much so far in this game. And the ball headed down. It's now Polvara back to goal, and Celtic nick the ball, and it could be a chance for Celtic to break away with Daisen Maeda, and I think could well get, well, they will get a free kick or advantage as they cross the halfway line. James Forrest ball outside of the boot, and Daisen Maeda attempting to run onto it, but too much on it for him.
Well, Maeda fighting to atone for his miss that could have won Celtic the Cup, but it really is in the balance. And what have we got left? We've got 2 minutes left, and here come Aberdeen. Yeah, Morris plays the ball down the line, the cross comes in, and once again it's another corner to Aberdeen. There are a few claims of handball from the Aberdeen players as that ball deflected off Greg Taylor and out. I'm not sure that it will be a penalty or will get checked. There's a yellow card in there from Don Robertson. Not quite sure who that was for, but the claims, I think Greg Taylor's arm looked as if it was tucked into his body, but we will probably need to see a better angle of that. As the cross came in from Jensen, Greg Taylor, his arms are down by his side, they're almost kind of behind his back, and it deflects maybe off his thigh onto his arm that's tucked in, or his body, but either way you're never going to get a penalty for that. If Aberdeen scored this, then
96 minutes on the clock. The corner delivery disappointing from an Aberdeen perspective, but a chance here, and that one is over the bar. I think the offside flag did go up, but a huge opportunity for Jack Milne to find the net. He didn't know he was offside. He just kind of snatched at that chance as it was headed down into his path, or chested down into his path.
Oh, he's well offside.
You've got to do well. You've got to do better to try and get back onside here. There's James Forrest. Yeah, James Forrest now is passing into Daisen Maeda at the edge of the Aberdeen box. His layoff does make it to Paulo Bernardo. Comes over to James Forrest. This could well be the final chance of, I say, the 97 minutes that we're going to play here. Callum McGregor, we've seen him score from that range before, but his shot's blocked. But Celtic still have the numbers forward, and still
no free kick.
No free kick. It was Yang that went down under the challenge, and it's Aberdeen who can break forward now. But Shayden Morris's pass has gone over the head of Pat Gay and out for a throw-in. Jimmy Tulin with a clap of encouragement, but I think that will be the end of this game. Well, the end of the 90 minutes, I should say. It will be going to extra time as it stands. Aberdeen 1, Celtic 1.
2 own goals. What a final.
Certainly not been a classic, but you never know.
Time up.
And it is full time at the National Stadium. Let's go and speak to Gordon Dalziel, Mark Wilson and Gordon Duncan.
Full time, Aberdeen 1, Celtic 1 in the 2025 Scottish Cup final is heading to extra time. The story of the match probably summed up by the 2 goal scorers. An own goal from Alfie Dorrington had Celtic in front. Aberdeen really didn't look like scoring, and it took Kasper Schmeichel absolutely flapping at a Shayden Morris cross. It ended up beyond the goalkeeper in the back of the net, and then the game came to life. Daisen Maeda had an unbelievable chance to wrap it up right at the end. He was clean through on goal. He scuffed his shot. Mitov saved. Aberdeen then passed up a big chance of their own. It remains to be seen whether an offside flag would have gone up on that one. It has not been a classic, but in the drama and the tension stakes, Mark Wilson, it is right up there.
Well, an absolute stunning end to what was a pretty drab encounter, and it just looked like it was sailing in one direction. Celtic just looked like they were coasting, and I even thought that with the 3 changes he made. Brendan Rodgers needed energy in his side, but he didn't really get it. And the changes for Aberdeen, you've got to say, Jimmy Thulin's team said it before the game, if they hang into about 80 minutes and then they change things, they might have an opportunity. And he did. He was brave enough. Okay, there was some confusion over the substitutions, but Papa Gay definitely made a difference. And when you bring the pace of Morris on the right hand side, you've always got a chance, and he puts the ball into a great area. But no doubt about it, Kasper Schmeichel, that will haunt him for the rest of his days. What an error.
Yeah, all credit to Aberdeen. Listen, they hung in there. They offered absolutely nothing until the substitutions, and they couldn't even get that right, and you're thinking it's never going to be their day. But they need a wee bit luck to keep themselves in the cup final. Schmeichel gave them that bit of luck, but right at the end there, Dyson Maeda once again through 1-1 on the goalkeeper. You're thinking this is it for Celtic, the late winner, the drama, it's all over, the treble's in the bag, but well done to the goalkeeper, and we now go into extra time.
Yes, extra time at Hampden's coming up next.
Just a quick word from our podcast sponsors, Wire, the best way to own an electric vehicle. Wire is a car purchasing platform that only sells 100% electric vehicles. So they'll walk you through the process of selecting a fully electric car that meets both your needs and your desires. Wire prove that virtually every car buyer can go electric today. They've got affordable options, saving you thousands on your next car through the Salary Boost scheme. The scheme makes purchasing an electric vehicle a sensible financial decision. Make sure you check out trywire.com for more information and how you can sign up. Now let's get back to the podcast.
It's not in my bag. In the car? Nope. Oh, what if I dropped it on the train?
If you've lost your card, you can freeze it till you find it with the Barclays app, or order a new one in just a few taps. Whether it's lost, damaged or stolen, our app will put you right back in control, so you can relax knowing your account is safe and secure.
Right then, better order a new card. Now, where did I leave my glasses?
Search Barclays app today. Barclays, make money work for you. You need to be 11 or over to use the app. T's and C's apply.
Welcome on board Avanti West Coast Standard Premium.
With space to just be. Space to relax with roomier seats and extra legroom. Space on your guaranteed table to read, breathe, and let go. Until you stop, obviously. Get from A to Zen in Standard Premium. Book now for a more spacious journey on avantiwestcoast.co.uk/standard premium. Premium. T's and C's apply.
Oh, Jamie's got a new car. He only passed his test last week. Chloe and the kids on the school run in their new hybrid, and the Flemings from 23 off to see their daughter at uni. Get car and van insurance that's right up your street at parkerscompare.com. Created by the experts at Parkers, we're 100% independent and dedicated to helping you find the right insurance policy. Quick and easy, you could compare quotes in just 5 minutes from some of the UK's leading providers. For car insurance comparisons you can trust, visit parkerscompare.com. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. See website for details.
The team with the biggest support in Glasgow and the West. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
It's into extra time in the Scottish Cup final. It's Aberdeen 1, Celtic 1, and we are already underway. Just under 2 minutes played of extra time. Celtic took the lead in the first half of normal time. It was an Alfie Dorrington own goal after Cameron Carter-Vickers had got his head on a Celtic corner. But towards the end of the game, Aberdeen made their changes. They'd stayed in the game, they'd battled away, and substitute Shayden Morris with a ball across the face of goal, and Kasper Schmeichel, he flapped at it and he could only divert the ball into his own net. So it is extra time at Hampden, and it is anyone's game.
This is, without question, Celtic's worst display of the entire season. This is even worse than the day when they lost 1-0 to St Johnstone at McDermott Park, a club who were later relegated to the Championship. They have no excuse. I do think that Aberdeen will go on and win the Cup now. There's nothing in the Celtic team to suggest that there's a goal in them. And Cup final with 2 own goals, it's been dire.
Has there not been a bit more positivity from Celtic through James Forrest and through Yang that maybe wasn't there in the first half? Has that not offered them a bit more than they had previously?
But that's until they see the goal. James Forrest is taking them to the water, but he can't make them drink. So, Maeda should have won the Cup, but didn't. And how do you blame Maeda? He's had a wonderful season. But I just don't think that Celtic have anything that would suggest they're going to score a goal. So either Aberdeen win it in extra time or we're going to penalties.
Well, Aberdeen have made a change just 3 minutes into extra time. Christos Tobers, who was stripped and ready to come on at one point during the second half, didn't eventually come on, but has come on now for Jack Milne, who I think will be quite happy with his performance. Jack Milne defensively has got his body in the way of quite a few Celtic balls into the box.
Yeah, listen, the Aberdeen have defended reasonably throughout the game, but Celtic haven't really offered much in terms of an attacking threat and really hurting them, as we've seen Celtic do to teams time and time again. So for me, listen, when it's all in front of you as a defender, that's the dream. Everything's in front of you. You can go and attack it, you can go and defend when you have to. They haven't been asked real questions today. I think in terms of overall, James Forrest down there as well.
Yeah, certainly feeling something, James Forrest, and isn't getting up too quickly.
No,
I
think he's done.
Don Robertson's calling for the Celtic physios to come on and take a look at James Forrest.
Well, Brendan Rodgers knows he's done, I think. I just think if Forrest goes off, you're now talking about a Celtic side who in recent weeks have lost Jota, Hatate, today Engels, Ida, Nicholas Kuhn. These are players who cost a fortune for Celtic, and for a variety of reasons unavailable now as Celtic look at a cup final where Johnny Kenny gets ready to come on. They look, for me, odds against Celtic. I'd fancy Aberdeen to score.
Well, it will be, as you say, Johnny Kenny is going to be the one that comes on if James Forrest is unable to continue. That'll be a disappointing one for Brendan Rodgers and the Celtic supporters, because James Forrest had looked positive any time he got on the ball, and he does make his way off the far side of the pitch. Maybe his body language, no, he will make his way off the park, and it's going to be Johnny Kenny. So probably the only natural move left for Celtic at that point, because it will shift Dyson Maeda out wide, you'd think, and Johnny Kenny will go through the middle. He didn't get his big moment against Rangers, did he, where he was hoping for that ball cut across the box by Dyson Maeda, so he'll be hoping that he can be the fairy tale story.
You're now talking about a day where if it can go wrong, it will go wrong for Celtic. Absolutely everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and now you've got a front three of Yang, Johnny Kenny and Dyson Maeda. I mean, you're
Celtic players, sure, it's their opportunity to come on, and listen, Johnny Kenny will be relishing this opportunity to come on, hopefully score the winner for his side. He has got quality, there's no question of that. He's scored a lot of goals, obviously, in the Conference League with Shamrock Rovers, who you would expect not to do as well as he did, but listen, he was a key part of that. He played some really good games against some tough opposition. I just think it's Celtic. I think Hugh made the point earlier about the only team that's going to beat Celtic today is Celtic, and it's really been the case of that. I think Aberdeen haven't played well at all, and they're still in this game. They offered no threat up until Papagay came on and gave them something physical. But Celtic's Carter Vickers and Scales should be able to deal with that. But see, in terms of attacking play from Celtic, it's been really, really poor today.
Yeah, it's Yang over to the right, Maeda to the left, and Johnny Kenny through the middle as Dimitar Mitov makes a comfortable save from Luke McCowan, whose strike from the edge of the box goes straight down his throat.
It's now the definition of makeshift where Celtic are concerned. You know, no one would have picked a Celtic team that looked like this into extra time in the Scottish Cup final. But as I say, if it can go wrong, it has gone wrong for Celtic. And on top of that, they have had, ironically, on the day that offered everything, they have had the worst performance of the season.
Aberdeen with a chance there, but Papagay just unable to pick out Ode Dabag, who was making his way into the box. But once again, they'll come forward with Shaden Morris, who has a couple of Celtic players for company in Bernardo and Dyson Maeda, but does well just to hold on to it for a while. But that pass into the box was never going to make it to any Aberdeen player.
But Aberdeen know, look at the state of it back for Celtic there. You know, the Aberdeen know they have a real chance of winning the cup now.
Celtic will back themselves as well, of course, double winners this season. Can they win another treble? Can they get the goal to create more history? Can Brendan Rodgers create more history with this team? If you're interested in English football, there was late drama in the Championship playoff final. Sheffield United took the lead 25 minutes into that game. There was then that tenuous Scottish link that we always do of Eliezer Mayenda, who was on loan at Hibs. Was it last season? Yep. He got the equaliser, and a goal from Tom Watson in the 95th minute for Sunderland that sent them into the Premier League. So they'll be a Premier League side next season.
If it does go to penalty kicks, Celtic's choice of penalty taker is dwindling. Kasper Schmeichel will be taking one at this rate.
I think he'd probably back himself to take one as well, Kasper Schmeichel.
But
they look devout of any ideas, don't they?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, that was Yang's ball, wasn't it? And there will be another substitution for Brendan Rodgers, Paulo Bernardo. I think both of you had said it earlier on that it looked as if his afternoon was done, wasn't quite having the influence that he wanted to have in the game. He is off and Jeffrey Schlupp is on, so is it going to be a case of Jeffrey Schlupp going into midfield?
That's what I said to you.
Or will he go to left back potentially and Greg Taylor into midfield?
Bernardo should have been taken off 90 minutes ago. But
come on here.
No, it's poised on a knife edge. But it's astonishing that the Celtic side now, as Scott said, devoid of ideas, almost Celtic reserves look about it. But
does the hope come from the fact that Celtic haven't played well, but they're still level with Aberdeen? They've still got every chance of winning this game. It's not as if Aberdeen have performed in a way that they've managed to just get ahead of Celtic and take advantage of Celtic being slack. Both teams have just been off the boil today.
All the big hitters have gone for Celtic.
Head is still in the park.
Well, but poor guy, he's already missed one cert. And
seen Cal McGregor score big goals as well from this type of range that he's about to shoot from. Curling one really doesn't quite go into the top corner. And so what I was about to say was that he does back himself. He scored plenty of goals from that exact position this season, but unable to find the target that time. Dimitar Mitov knew it was sailing over the bar.
Well, I'd favour penalties. I mean, Aberdeen aren't exactly pulling up trees either, so it'll stutter its way to penalty kicks.
Well, the Aberdeen supporters behind the goal, there's actually a big security presence over in that area where there was a sort of overspill onto the trackside, and just making sure that the same doesn't happen again if Aberdeen manage to get themselves an extra time goal.
It's a day where Brendan Rodgers finds out a lot about the squad players on his side and what happens next season for me now. I think it'll tell him an awful lot about him. It was an opportunity for your Engels and your Bernardo coming in today, obviously not maybe playing as many minutes as he would have wanted this season, to really put a marker down. And for me, he let the chance pass him by. Engels as well, obviously he could have been the star of the show. It didn't really affect the game in terms of what the Celtic fans would expect him, considering the price tag that is over his head. For me, Celtic have beat Celtic in terms of where they're at this moment in time.
It's an interesting dynamic for Aberdeen as well, because for all that it was a season that started full of promise, and you had Aberdeen fans, whether it was in jest or not, felt that they could have gone for the title with that amazing start they had to the season, had a drop off of astronomical proportions. And Gordon gave us that stat earlier on that since, was it November 10, they've picked up the fewest points in the league all season. But if they were then to go on and beat Celtic in a Scottish Cup final, it just completely flips the dynamic of the season and the optics of how Jimmy Tillene's done.
Yeah, well, as Scott rightly says, how many players in this Celtic team will wear that jersey again? I think the summertime, we go on about Rangers justifiably because they've got new owners, and they are the team who have lost out on 13 of the last 14 league titles. But Celtic need a real shake-up as well. There's no strength there.
I mean, it's been one slack performance today, but generally across the season, Celtic have been very good as they win themselves a corner, the ball across the box. Celtic have, they're potentially, 20 odd minutes away from another treble. They progressed in the Champions League. They have had a strong season. Maybe that shake-up in January of Kyogo leaving and of Jota coming in, and they maybe don't have quite the strength and depth that Brendan Rodgers would want, and he's always pushing for more. But it's not as if this one performance takes away from what's been an excellent season for Brendan Rodgers and his team.
It will for Brendan Rodgers personally.
As the corner comes in, it dropped into the middle of that Aberdeen box.
But Celtic went to Pittodrie 10 days ago with a makeshift team and scored 5 goals. They have just been awful today, and they're running up one blind alley after another. Aberdeen, let it be said, are not doing much to make this a cup final either, and that's why I think it will go to penalties, because one's as bad as the other.
We had Aberdeen winning it not long ago, and now it's going to penalties.
Well, I still think there's every chance that Aberdeen will win it, but if it does go to penalty kicks, it will be because one is as bad as the other. They've bored everyone to death.
Yeah, will there be a hero at Hampden? We've only got a minute to play of the first half of extra time. 104 minutes on the Hampden clock, and there was the excitement in that Aberdeen end is maybe just subdued slightly because they're watching Celtic dominate the possession, and Celtic now give away a free kick in their own half. But I think it's now turning to tension, and it's just going to heighten as this half goes on, and this extra time goes on, I should say.
Players are dropping like flies. The stewards, the police, they will have a job in their hands keeping the Aberdeen supporters at bay, because there's clearly a build-up of excitement in that particular part of the ground. But let's see how the game finishes first of all. But anything could happen, anything.
My head a chance at the end of the game is probably the best chance in the whole game in terms of clear-cut chance.
That's why I say, Scott, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. The guy who scored all the goals this season, who won all the Player of the Year awards, and in two big matches against Rangers and in this one, he's missed an absolute pinch in both of them later on that could have sorted the game out. So I just think, ironically for Celtic, who have contributed so much to this season, who have scored, what did they score, 112, 111 goals, and they've finished up with the remnants of a team, and don't look as if they've got a goal in them.
Potentially a final chance for Celtic in the first half of extra time. Liam Scales on the ball. Celtic have a good few men forward. Dyson Maeda and Jeffrey Schlupp exchanging passes down that left side, but I'm not really in a hurry to get the ball forward or into the box. Liam Scales does go for the cross, but it's blocked by Shaden Morris. 2 minutes added of this first half of extra time.
You always look at Celtic this season and the excitement factor is there. There's no one quite like them for providing excitement, but not today.
Could the excitement come at the end of this first half of extra time, or could it come in the second half of extra time? Is it penalties that loom for both these teams as the ball goes out for an Aberdeen goal kick?
Ironic, 35 years ago, extra time, penalties, Aberdeen. Ironic if 35 years later, and we did speak before the game and last night on Super Scoreboard about the law of averages. It has to happen sometime, and on the day when history was available to be made by Celtic, they have fallen apart.
Well, it still is anyone's game at Hampden. The Aberdeen supporters in shot at the moment, all dressed in red. They are hopeful that this could be the day. They've conceded so many goals to Celtic this season, but just the one today, it was their own doing. It came off of Alfie Dorrington, an own goal, and the Celtic goal was an own goal as well. Let's go back to Hampden because it's half time of extra time. Well, I think we were going to speak to them, but we'll maybe just stay where we are at the moment and analyse what was a first half of extra time where we didn't really see too much of a goal threat.
Well, nothing continued to happen. So, as I say, we're stuttering our way towards a penalty shootout unless something remarkable happens, because Aberdeen don't look like scoring, Celtic certainly don't look like scoring. We've had a cup final now over 100 minutes long where two own goals have taken us to this stage. In terms of chance taking, chance creation, nothing.
Yeah, I think we can now go back to the National Stadium. What's the feeling inside Hampden, Gordon?
I think there's a nervousness, Mark Wilson. I think both teams, because Aberdeen probably would take penalties. They know a goal for Celtic would spell the end. And the Celtic fans knowing that once you get to penalties, well, anything's possible.
Well, it's a lottery if it goes to penalties. Celtic fans know that, the Celtic players will know that, but they've allowed themselves to fall into this situation. And while the traffic was kind of going one way without, Celtic really creating anything clear cut there in the first period, there is always the danger when you have Papa Gay and you have Morris at the other end with a bit of pace that could go the other way. So even Celtic are a bit tentative as the players come back into it.
Just quickly, Gordon, the one thing that's clear being at the stadium is Jensen at right back is absolutely dead on his feet and has been since about the 80th minute, and yet Tyson Maeda or Celtic don't ever really seem to be running at him. Aberdeen have used all their subs. It's incredible that hasn't.
Yeah, we're witnessing, Gordon. We can't believe it. He can hardly walk, the lad. He's not alone. Aberdeen need to dig deep. This will be the best chance ever for them to go on and win a Scottish Cup.
Well, strap yourselves in. We are 15 minutes away from either finding out who will win the cup or heading to penalties.
Well, my money's on penalties because the Aberdeen players out on their feet, the Celtic players out of ideas, so everybody's out, and it's a penalty kick decider that's on the way, I think.
Yeah, we are just about to get the second half of extra time underway. It is now underway, 15 minutes to go. Can Celtic or Aberdeen find a winner at Hampden? Will someone make themselves the hero in this Scottish Cup final, or will it go down to the lottery that is penalties?
I think Brendan Rodgers is getting an insight into just how great the transformation will need to be in the summertime, because Celtic contemplating Champions League and what have you.
Well, they did compete well in the Champions League this season, didn't they? And that is a great recovery challenge from Jeffrey Schlupp, because he had the pace of Shaden Morris running at him down that right side, and he had to get that challenge right, and he did. And it's going to be a corner to Aberdeen.
He had about a 5-yard head start as well.
But as I say, there's plenty of food for thought for Brendan Rodgers. Again, I said all along, extra time and penalties. If it's to be avoided, it will be an Aberdeen goal, because Celtic simply don't have any ideas of their own.
I mean, Aberdeen don't look as if they've had that many either, Scott. Is it sort of a 50-50 toss-up at this point, would you say? But it is Aberdeen, we will stick with this, do have a corner delivery into the box. Pat Gay gets on it, and it is a left-footed volley from Polvara that goes over the bar, and that was a chance for Aberdeen.
That's a real chance. That comes at the perfect height for you on the volley. Just tries to hit it too hard. Let me see as it comes back in. It's headed down into an area. First contact. It's a great height. If he goes with the side foot, he just puts it in the bottom corner.
It's just another example of Pat Gay just doing well and doing that striking role well, where he managed to get the first contact on that corner, headed it back into a dangerous area. There's no way that he would have known that Dante Polvara was there, but he just knew to get it back into an area where there were bodies, hope that it would fall to someone. Fell nicely for Polvara, but just couldn't keep it down.
Yeah, well,
it's a chance.
It's a great chance, but there'll be others. I'm just amazed.
You convinced there'll be others? There's not been many for either team during this whole game.
No, but at the Aberdeen, at the Kasper Schmeichel end, there will be other chances. I can't help but feel. But I'm amazed, Scott, that Celtic have nothing left. Nothing.
No, I think James Forrest going off in that first period of extra time really it's made them go flat. They don't look like they have that real impetus to get forward in areas where they can go and hurt Aberdeen. Aberdeen, on the other hand, like you say, if they do get a set piece, the physical presence obviously of Papa Gay, as you see there, first contact and then the second contact from an Aberdeen player. They're things as a manager that Brendan Rodgers will be really frustrated with. I think now looking at the Celtic team, they're looking for a bit of magic from Maeda.
Well, could the magic be from Cal McGregor, edge of the box? It's a wonderful block, and the strike from Jeffrey Schlupp comes off the bar, and that was a huge opening for Celtic. The first one from Cal McGregor was well blocked. What a strike it was from Jeffrey Schlupp. A powerful effort from the edge of the box, maybe 20-25 yards out. Dimitar Mitov was beaten, but it cannoned off the Aberdeen bar, and Celtic so close to going ahead in extra time.
They've hit the bar, they've hit the post, they've missed a sitter. It's fate trying to tell you something.
What a strike from Jeffrey Schlupp there, and the ball just strikes through it, and it was obviously cannons off the crossbar. Listen, I think there's going to be another couple of chances left in this game.
Yeah, both teams just look as if they've maybe found a second wind at the moment.
A fourth wind.
Big chances at both ends in a matter of minutes. Dante Polvara volleying over for Aberdeen, and Jeffrey Schlupp going even closer than that. His strike, powerful shot coming off the bar, and it is all to play for, and there could well be a hero with just over 10 minutes left of extra time.
Well, the players, you've been there, Scott, the players don't want to be involved in a penalty shootout in a cup final.
No.
They really do not want to be involved. They'll do anything to avoid it.
Never enjoyed it myself, the old penalties, to be fair.
No,
but
not one of the first to put the hand up.
Second usually, just because you felt that you need to, because you were classed as some sort of technical player. So if you don't hit one, the questions are asked. Listen, if it goes to penalties, it's a lottery, as you well know. It's the ones who are confident who want to step up. But Celtic have a lot of penalty kick takers now off the pitch who would hit for them. Aberdeen, I'd imagine, be the same.
Yeah, just seen this strike from Jeffrey Schlupp. He doesn't do a whole lot wrong at all, does he? Catches it really clean. Dimitar Mitov would have had no chance if that was on target, but came off the bar. Aberdeen are spared. Celtic not celebrating there. Will there be celebrations from either team, from either end, before extra time finishes, as Ode Dabag tries to put the ball over the head of Cameron Carter-Vickers and get into the Celtic box, but Celtic clear that one.
It's now just... But you're not waiting for penalty kicks. The lottery has begun now. It's just a lottery. Anything could happen at either end.
I don't think Johnny Kenny's touched the ball yet.
No.
Here's a chance. All over the top, and there is a chance if Liam Scales doesn't get that right, but he does get it right, and not only does that, manages to get the ball away to one of his teammates, but I think a free kick has been given by Don Robertson just for a foul from Gay on Liam Scales as he played the ball away at the edge of the Celtic box.
And here comes Celtic. So it's got a kind of morbid fascination to it. You know, who's going to make a mess of it and cost themselves the cup?
Yeah, because both teams will just now have that glimmer of hope with those two chances, that one at each end. So will that inspire one of the teams to do something? Liam Scales with a ball into the box, shaping it towards Yang. Aberdeen head it away only as far as Alistair Johnson. It was Johnny Kenny in there with the header. He was battling away with a couple of Aberdeen defenders, just couldn't get a clean head on it, and it's flicked wide for an Aberdeen goal kick.
What do you think, Scott? Should they have done better?
I'll tell you 1 second, when I see this replay, lovely flighted ball in there from Alistair John. That's a chance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think if he solely goes for the ball, I think he's more worried about making the contact with the Aberdeen defender. It's a great area from Johnson. It's a good chance.
Yeah, he does get up, Johnny Kenny, but just maybe didn't have enough conviction or to get that one on target. Dimitar Mitov's goal kick will be sent long.
Well, Alistair Johnson, you know, again, another one who's had a fantastic season for Celtic. That was a sign of the old Alistair Johnson there, but I'm afraid he, like the rest of the Celtic players, has looked totally flat today, as if
there's been a lack of urgency about Celtic.
No,
the full game, to be honest, they've not been moving the ball quick enough.
Do you put any of it down to sheer fatigue?
Not in a day like this, no. Not when you know what's at stake. Even the players know, listen, it's our last game before our break, so there's so much that's riding on this game that adrenaline gets you through it. I just think for one reason or another, Celtic just haven't performed. We haven't seen the Celtic that we've seen time and time again this season in terms of the way they've moved the ball.
There certainly doesn't look to be sort of in-game fatigue, as this has been probably the most frantic section of the whole game. It's Pat Gay with the first time strike at the edge of the box, went for the side footer, the instep, tried to curl it into the far corner, but was straight into the arms of Kasper Schmeichel. That was a big chance.
Your eyes light up with A1s because you just need to shape it into the corner, and he's miskicked it straight into the hands of Kasper Schmeichel.
He has been a handful since he came on in that second half. Pat Gay obviously played a big part in the build-up to Aberdeen's equaliser, almost set up Dante Polvara with a volley in the second half of extra time a few moments ago. He's certainly been a good addition from the bench today.
And on we go. We've got 8 minutes left of time before we go to penalties. It could happen at either end, but it just has that look of penalty kicks written all over it.
It's almost turning into a bit of a basketball game at the moment, where it's just one team will go up, attack, the other team will go up, attack. There's no sort of sustained spells or waves from either team, as it's Celtic's turn this time to come forward. Callum McGregor at the edge of the box. You think every time he's in that position he'll consider shooting, but he does lay it off. Schlupp with the cross into the box, headed away.
Nothing cross.
But Celtic can keep the pressure on this time. And once again, Aberdeen now penned back as Alistair Johnson looks for another good delivery into the box, but this time doesn't get it right, goes over the heads of everyone, and Dyson Maida will have to recover at the far side.
I'd forgotten Dyson Maida was still in the park. And no criticism of him, because he's been Celtic's outstanding player. Done more than anybody to get Celtic the 2 trophies they have, but I'd forgotten he was still on the park. He for me, looks fatigued.
Yeah, I think that when you associate him in the game that he plays, the terms of pressing, constantly running behind, it's natural to be fatigued, especially with the amount of games he's played this season. I think the Celtic fans will be hoping he's got a little bit of magic left in him with 5 minutes to go here.
The game did seem to open up there for a while, and there were chances at both ends. Will this annoy Jimmy Talleen, the way that it looks now that Celtic really have just penned Aberdeen back, and almost every single player is 25 yards from their own goal? Celtic claiming for a penalty there for a push on, was it Johnny Kenny at the back post, but Don Robertson not having any of it.
Desperation. I mean, you just claim for anything and everything.
Or Luke McCowan, it was potentially still screaming for it. He felt that you got a push or a nudge in the back as that ball came into the box. We'll see a replay of it here. Pretty hard to tell from that angle too far away, but he did seem convinced, Luke McCowan, and certainly was a nudge in the back. But is there not enough in that for you, Scott?
I see it.
Nah,
well, he's 2 hands, but I'd be very surprised if he was to get that.
Yeah, Jack McKenzie was the man who was in question, but the game has continued, and there will be no penalty to Celtic, no lengthy VAR review on that one, as Yang now tries to create something, but Celtic will just be happy to try and pass the ball around in these final few minutes, just wait for that right opening to try and cut Aberdeen apart and get that winning goal. Aberdeen absorbing the pressure at the moment, maybe just waiting for Celtic to play their hand and open up at the other end. Ball across the box, not doing anything for Celtic, and it will be cleared.
You see, that's the story of the day for Celtic. You know, the big hitters did it, and now the fringe players are doing it. There's absolutely no threat. When the goal beckons, Dyson Maida had the one big chance, and there's no threat from Celtic at all.
The one positive for them over Aberdeen at the moment will be that Celtic have the ball, so they at least have that element of being able to get the ball forward, get the ball into the Aberdeen box. We saw it with the goal they scored and the goal that Aberdeen scored. It just took a ball into the box and a bit of luck. So they'll be hoping that even if they're unable to carve Aberdeen apart, that luck could be on their side in the final 3 minutes of extra time.
Well, luck has not been on their side at all. You know, they've lost James Forrest to injury. As I say, if it can go wrong, it has gone wrong for Celtic today.
Jeffrey Schlupp's ball into the box, looked good into the 6 yard box, but Yang just didn't attack it in there, and it's given away by Jeffrey Schlupp to Pat Gay, who will have a lot of work to do as he crosses the halfway line. Takes a really, really heavy touch ahead of him, and so heavy that Kasper Schmeichel is able to get to it.
2 minutes to go then, before the players have to just take the penalties, whether they want to or not. But there's typical of Celtic. That was a very poor pass, but retrieved by Yang. Last chance.
Yeah, Johnny Kenny just trying to flick the ball round the other side of, it was that Canister, and get onto it, but just didn't quite get the contact or didn't get the right touch on it, and it rolls all the way through for Dimitar Mitov.
It's penalties, isn't it?
It is.
The quality's been poor today, hasn't it? I don't think there's any getting away from that, but I think in terms of from Celtic, in terms of their coaching staff, the players, the fan base, I think if they can get through penalties and make it another treble, they want to put the actual game to the back of their minds, because it's not been a classic by any stretch of the imagination, but it's about getting over the line. So it's about getting over the line and winning by any means possible.
Let's hope if it goes to penalties there's at least some quality there. We don't need every single one skied over the bar. We'll be here all night.
They all look dead on their feet. The big hitters are gone. The Adamidas, the Engels, who's a terrific penalty taker, Nicholas Kuhn. There's no James Forrest. So the ones that you would have as your automatic choices are all off.
There will still be players that will back themselves from 12 yards is a chance for Greg Taylor to... It's a nice reverse pass into Yang, but his ball, he looked to play it across the face of goal, but on the turn slices it and it goes out for an Aberdeen goal kick. Brendan Rodgers turns away. He knows that was an opportunity for Celtic with just 1 minute to go of extra time to try and get that winning goal, and maybe he thinks, and maybe supporters think, that it is now going to go to penalties.
That's so poor. Listen, I think Greg Taylor's been Celtic's best player today.
Yeah.
On and off the ball, but at this stage of the game, listen, Yang gets into an area and he just has to put the ball in an area and make Aberdeen defend, and again the technical aspect lets him down. Really, really poor.
Well, Dimitar Mitov has taken his time over this goal kick. Maybe he has accepted the fate of this game, that it is going to go to spot kicks. Or will there be one final chance, because the ball's back with Mitov, who just has to put his foot through it and plays it up towards the halfway line. Pat Gay too physical with Alistair Johnson, fouls him.
Well, this really is the last chance saloon. There is simply no other opportunity, no time left.
There is 1 minute added. A minimum, of course it is, but 1 minute for one of these teams to try and get the goal to win the Scottish Cup, to stop this game going to penalties. It's Celtic in possession. Can they create the final chance? It's Liam Scales around 35 yards out, goes to Jeffrey Schlupp, who takes a couple of heavy touches, manages to find its way back to Liam Scales. Here's Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Celtic maybe creating a bit of an opening here. Look, McCowan twisting at the edge of the box. The cross goes into the box towards the back post, and it's flicked on with a header, and Dimitar Mitov gathers, and that should be that, because there's only 10 seconds left of that 1 minute of injury time, and Dimitar Mitov lying on the ball. He knows it's going to penalties. The shot on the Celtic fans, who look a bit more dejected than the Aberdeen fans, who are celebrating, but I think that is it, and penalties are coming up next.
After the action, it's your reaction. 0141 951 1025. Clyde One Super Scoreboard's open line.
It's going to penalties in the Scottish Cup final between Aberdeen and Celtic. I think we can maybe go back to Hampden just to get a flavour for things before the penalties get underway.
Well, at Hampden Park, the sunshine has come out and the tension levels have gone through the roof. I'm tense, and I don't have any dog in the fight, so goodness knows how these Celtic fans, Aberdeen fans and the players must be feeling.
Well, I've got to say, nobody wants to be involved in this. The players that are gathering in the centre circle don't want to be involved in it. The coaches, the fans, nobody wants to be a part of it. Nerves all over the place. The only people that can be real heroes here are the goalkeepers, and Schmeichel's got a lot of making up to do. I couldn't call this either way. It is a lottery.
The penalties will be taken in front of the Celtic fans. Away to our right, Callum McGregor has the ball in hand. He will get us underway. Kasper Schmeichel, Dimitar Mitov, the chance to become a Scottish Cup hero. Kasper Schmeichel, who had a very difficult game, certainly with the goal Aberdeen scored. We are about to get underway in this penalty shootout. Callum McGregor of Celtic to take first.
Yes, it will be Celtic's captain to step up and take the captain's responsibility to try and put Celtic ahead on penalties, give them that advantage in the Scottish Cup final from the spot.
He had to do that. It really is his duty as the captain, and this sets the tone. The captain at the Celtic end of the ground to put Celtic one up on penalties. He has to do it.
Callum McGregor stepping up, left-footed. Dimitar Mitov is poised on his line. The whistle blows and it's left-footed. Callum McGregor, and it is a save by Dimitar Mitov, who gets down low to his right, and Celtic's first penalty is saved. And what a huge opportunity Aberdeen now have ahead of them to get the advantage in this shootout. It wasn't anywhere near the corner that Callum McGregor was going for, and it's a save by Dimitar Mitov.
It genuinely looked a really nervous penalty there from Callum. Yeah. He hit it goalie's height, wasn't in the corner.
The Celtic players know that this is not their day, and Shinnie will score for Aberdeen, I guarantee you.
It is the Aberdeen captain who will also take left-footed, steps up and smashes that into the top corner. Aberdeen have scored their penalty. Graham Shinnie points to the badge, grabs the badge. He's now screaming because he's celebrating, giving Aberdeen the advantage, and that is a great penalty from Graham Shinnie, isn't it?
Yeah, well, as I say, when the captain misses for Celtic, you're in deep, deep trouble, because those who will follow him wouldn't have accepted the responsibility of going first. And I don't think Johnny Kenny now, if he misses, goodbye.
Big pressure for Johnny Kenny, who of course spent the first half of the season at Shamrock Rovers, and he rolls that calmly into the back of the net, sends Dimitar Mitov the wrong way. And yes, he is young, but he's a striker. He's proven at Shamrock Rovers that he's a goal scorer. He'll be happy with that.
Yeah, obviously tucks it into the corner, sends the goalie the wrong way, and as you says, Andrew, he's a goal scorer.
An assured penalty from the young striker means it is 1-1 between the sides on penalties, but of course Aberdeen have only taken one, Celtic have taken two, and it will be Dante Polvara. He had that chance in extra time, didn't he? That volley that went over the bar.
Closed his eyes.
Is he able to find the target this time? Steps up, a bit of a stutter in the run-up, and that is another good penalty for Aberdeen. Finds the bottom corner, and Aberdeen have a 2-1 advantage.
Well, it felt like a symbolic moment when the Celtic captain missed the penalty. It was consistent with Celtic's days at the Celtic end of the ground. Did not have a good game himself, Callum McGregor, but when he misses, you have to think that Celtic are in bother.
Well, Luke McCowan is the Celtic fan who steps up to take Celtic's third penalty, and he rolls that into the other corner, sends Dimitar Mitov the wrong way. There will have been a lot of pressure on his shoulders. We know how much the club means to him, and no nonsense into the corner. It's a good penalty from Luke McCowan, and he jogs back to Celtic, the halfway line.
If you hit that inside net and bits a goal, the goalkeeper can't reach it. Fantastic penalty.
Celtic are now looking for Kasper Schmeichel to make up for the mistake that brought us to extra time and now penalties, because Celtic had the cup, they had one hand on the cup, and the goalkeeper, I'm afraid, threw it away.
Ode Dabag will take the next penalty. Steps up eye to eye with Kasper Schmeichel, and what a penalty that is. If you thought Graham Shinnie's into the top corner was good, I think that's just been bettered by Ode Dabag. Under pressure as well, smashing it in to that top corner. Kasper Schmeichel diving in the opposite direction. That is a fantastic penalty.
Yep, right in the top corner. Aberdeen's free penalties have been fantastic. The goalkeeper, no chance with any of them. And again, now the pressure on Celtic as Maeda comes up.
Yeah, Daisen Maeda, you would have expected him to be one of Celtic's 5 takers, the top scorer for Celtic this season. Of course, the top performer in the country, has done pretty much a clean sweep of all the Player of the Year awards. Can he get Celtic? That one has gone straight through the goalkeeper and in. It would have been a nervous moment for Daisen Maeda as he watched that penalty go towards Dimitar Mitov, but he just couldn't make the save. He maybe should have.
Let's see it. Oh, he's got to save that.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to save that. But listen, power sometimes just goes through it. Maeda right down the middle, looked casual.
Yeah, just
for him, it lands in the back of the net.
Yeah, just smashed it pretty central, didn't he, Daisen Maeda? Not a lot of finesse about that penalty, but the only thing that matters is that it ended up in the back of the net, and it will be Ante Palaversa to take this. Can the midfielder put Aberdeen 4-3 up and put big pressure on Celtic on their 5th penalty? Kasper Schmeichel jumps around his line, and it doesn't matter because Palaversa finds that same top corner that Graham Shinnie found and that Ode Dabag found. Another fantastic penalty for Aberdeen. I tell you what, not a whole lot of quality during the game, but in this penalty shootout, Aberdeen are really turning it on at the moment.
Yeah, that's unsavable, isn't it, Hugh?
Yeah, the day looks to be theirs. The 4 outstanding penalties. Alistair Johnson now is the one charged with the responsibility of keeping Celtic in it.
Alistair Johnson steps up, puts the ball on the spot. Alistair Johnson has to score or Aberdeen win the Scottish Cup and cause a huge upset. Alistair Johnson, right-footed, saved by Dimitar Mitov. Aberdeen have won the Scottish Cup, and let's go to Hampden to get the reaction.
History has been made. Aberdeen have won the Scottish Cup for the first time since 1990. There will be no treble for Celtic. A first ever Hampden defeat for Brendan Rodgers. A first ever Scottish Cup defeat for Brendan Rodgers. The left side of Hampden in red erupts, head in hands for the green and white fans who cannot quite believe what they have seen. They tend to have these days all their own way, but not today. Not this day at Hampden. Aberdeen, Mark Wilson, have won the Scottish Cup.
Just remarkable scenes to our left here. The Aberdeen fans starved of success for so long. A roller coaster season, a lightning fast start with a huge speed bump in the middle, culminating in a Scottish Cup final against history chasing Celtic. And you know what? They were like a boxer on the ropes for the majority of the game, but they hung in there. Their players couldn't move. They gave their manager everything and got their way to penalties. And I've got to say, Gordon, the standard of their penalty kicks were outrageously good. And guys who Celtic have depended on throughout the years, Callum McGregor, Alistair Johnson, are the ones who have paid the price. But well done to Jimmy Thelin and well done Aberdeen.
Nobody gave this Aberdeen team a chance before kick-off. Nobody gave them a chance at half-time. They offered absolutely nothing. They waited, they had a game plan. It worked perfect. At extra time, all they wanted to do, take their chance at penalty kicks. Mark's right, their penalty kicks were fantastic. And obviously a sad day for Callum McGregor. Steps up there, first penalty save. Alistair Johnson misses. The scenes are incredible. We keep saying it. Underdogs can win Scottish Cup finals, and it's happened today.
Mark, there will be a tendency in the coming hours and days and weeks to look at the failure of this Celtic team to win a treble when so many thought that they would, but right now this just feels like Aberdeen's moment. Look at those scenes, look at what it means to people. They're in tears, they're in disbelief, they cannot believe what they've witnessed. If you are under the age of 35, you have never seen Aberdeen win the Scottish Cup, and it's happened here at Hampden.
I mean, an unbelievable feeling, because the Aberdeen fans travel in huge numbers week in, week out, and even when it was going poorly for Jimmy Thellin's side, they were still there. They got their 50-50 split of tickets and they sold them. And look at what it means to the fans. There was a stage in that first half I actually thought, I wonder if the Aberdeen fans actually believe they can get anything through this game, because it didn't look like the players believed it. But I said before it, if you manage to hang in and just keep yourself in there, you never know what can happen when they make the changes. And those players that Jimmy Thelin brought on at that moment, credit to the manager, made the difference and got them back in the game.
I think you make a great point there, Mark. When you make changes, it's to make sure you go on and try and kick on in the game. I thought Aberdeen's changes worked a lot better than Celtic. Brendan Rodgers surprised me. He made 3 changes very quickly in the second half. I thought that sort of upset the rhythm a little bit. Aberdeen made their changes and all of a sudden they started a little bit of belief in them. They got to extra time. Look, we spoke about it. They were running in the empty. They had nothing left in the tank. They wanted to get to penalty kicks. They wanted to take their chance, and congratulations to them.
I'm looking at here in the middle of the pitch, the Celtic side, Callum McGregor, an absolute floods of tears, being consoled by his manager. He's a player that has never lost here in any cup final, and this is his first taste of it, and it's his penalty kick. I've got to say, he was one of the better performers for Celtic along with Taylor today, but so many of those Aberdeen players gave everything. We were saying about the right wing back Jensen, he could not move, and he must have looked up at the clock at half time and extra time and thought, I can't believe I've got 15 minutes here to keep going. But it was a collective team performance from Aberdeen to get them to the stage that it became a lottery. By the way, in extra time, they could have nicked it with Pavard blazes over the bar.
Aberdeen weren't pretty this afternoon. Let's not be kidding here. They weren't pretty. They weren't here to go toe-to-toe with Celtic. They were here to try and find a way to win this cup and celebrate the way they're celebrating. They changed their tactics, they changed their shape, they made their substitutions, they dug deep, they fought for everything. And this is is the reward they're now getting.
I mean, Hugh Keevins, you saw the real glory days for Aberdeen, and they looked like not only a distant memory, but that they would never return again. One League Cup back in 2014 is about all the modern era had for Aberdeen, but today they've won the Scottish Cup.
Well, they've won the Scottish Cup because of the way Jimmy Talleen set out his side. They've also won the Scottish Cup because Celtic had their worst performance of the season, bar none. Fate was at hand when the Celtic captain missed the first penalty. No wonder he's distraught and in tears. And at the end of the day, Aberdeen took magnificent penalty kicks, an absolute model of efficiency. And we've talked about the law of averages, we talked about the season of the underdog. It's all come true. It's a devastating blow for Brendan Rodgers on a personal level. I think we're much soul searching now about the exact quality of this Celtic squad. Aberdeen, what a climax to a season in which they have let themselves down badly on many an occasion. But the fans won't care that it was an absolutely awful final to watch. There's only one thing that's important. That's the journey back up the road. And Union Street tonight will be the place to be.
Don't forget, you can give us a call right now, 01419511025. If there are any Aberdeen fans out there, how are you feeling? What a feeling it must be. Your team is about to lift the oldest trophy in world football for the first time in 35 years. What did you make of that today? And of course, Celtic fans, let's be honest, everyone thought it was going to be another treble. You were staring at one of the memorable seasons. It was looking like a treble plus Champions League progression this season. Aberdeen had other ideas though. A cup double and a decent campaign in the Champions League is not to be sniffed at, but this club, Mark Wilson, had set new standards. Look at what it means to them there. They clearly wanted to win this and win it a lot, and it goes down as a massive disappointment today.
Oh, without doubt. You look at the squad at the minute and they are dejected. A lot of these guys have never tasted defeat in this country in their real careers. So looks like they're a bit in shock of what just happened, and they'll have to go away and dissect what went on. What could they have done better within that game to get themselves two in front? But look, that'll be for another day. The disappointment will be overwhelming for them just now, but you contrast that, compare it to the other side. Those Aberdeen players, you can see they cannot believe what's just happened. I'm trying to think of other underdog cup finals. At the Scottish Cup final, I'm thinking back 94 Dundee United Rangers. There's been many apart from that where Rangers were hunting a treble. I'm sure at that time Craig Brewster scored. Everybody thought Rangers, that was just going to be a foregone conclusion. That's what it kind of reminds me. But well done to Aberdeen, and especially Jimmy Talleen, who was under serious pressure. I wonder what sort of pressure would have been on his shoulders had Celtic been walking away with a treble this afternoon.
Well, that's the thing, Gordon Dalziel. Celtic should take every bit of criticism that comes their way. They were miles off it today. Even in the penalty shootout, they were outdone by Aberdeen. Yes, there's people say lottery. Aberdeen's penalties were brilliant, and the Celtics weren't. Having said all that, this won't cheer the Celtic fans up. This day was coming. It's just the way the world works. You can't win cup finals from now until the end of time, but they still should have been a lot better today.
Yeah, they went in massive favourites, no doubt about it. You look at Celtic's season, you look at the Champions League campaign, it was good. You look at a double, it's good, very good indeed. But this will make that sound like a failure to them, Gordon. They turned up here, and I think everybody, and I think deep down inside some of the Aberdeen supporters even thought it was going to be Celtic, it'll be a treble. Have a look at the games gone past here. They battered goals in left, right and centre. They went to Pittodrie with a reserve team and comfortably beat them 5-1. But I've got to say, the one thing was Aberdeen went in at 1-0 at half time, and they must have still had to believe, because in the League Cup semi-final they were 3 and it was gone. They come out, they dug deep. Look, it wasn't pretty for Aberdeen. But it's not about the match now, it's about the trophy. It's about lifting that trophy and taking it back up and celebrating the way they should, and it'll be fantastic scenes up Aberdeen this evening.
Because in many ways, Mark Wilson, when you get the outcome, then of course you can say the game plan worked. It looked for the majority of the game like a game plan it was mostly about stopping Celtic winning the cup rather than Aberdeen actively going and taking it in their own grasp. But if you can see a game out to penalties and then win it on penalties, then that's exactly game plan executed.
I think it's great game management. I think it's a great understanding what the other side's threats are and try to negate that, and understanding that you're going to come under serious pressure within that, and you're going to give up the ball, but you have faith in your players seeing it out. And once the first goal went in, you just thought, Celtic might get a bit of rhythm, they might start the second half quick and put this game to bed. We were chatting about it at half time. What does he do? Does he stick or twist? And we both agreed that he probably sticks to about 60-70 minutes or something like that. He changed it before he brought in Papagay, and I thought that gave them a bit of an out ball, a bit more strength, and they could go direct, and he won a few flick-ons. He then survived to the 80th minute, so he was ticking off chunks of the game. And soon as run about then, the 80th minute, he brings on a bit of pace and he thinks he needs to go for it. That is good management. And of course it looks even better now because they've won the cup.
The one thing I will say, Mark, right, and all credit to Aberdeen, don't take anything away, they needed a helping hand, and they got the helping hand. Schmeichel will look back in that, and he's a top goalkeeper. He's made a mistake. He gave Aberdeen a lifeline. Up until then, yes, they huffed and they puffed, and they looked a lot better. I never seen them getting back in to this cup final. They needed something. They need that little bit of luck, and they got it from Schmeichel.
Yeah, we spoke about that all week, Mark Wilson. You need one or two things to go your way. They didn't need loads because Celtic were nowhere near their best. But the goal, as Gordon mentions, it is an absolute howler from Kasper Schmeichel. Add to that maybe, one or two, Celtic hit the woodwork, they didn't threaten a great deal. Dyson Maeda goes through in the final minutes and misses. You're going to need those things to go your way, and they did today for Aberdeen.
Well, I think that's the big thing. Obviously the goal, by the way, the goal, I think somebody from Celtic gives the ball away, but Papagay keeps it alive. They work it out wide, so exactly what Morris is on the pitch for. I think it's a great ball from Morris. Now Schmeichel, I think, has to come for it because there's three Aberdeen players at the back post probably going to put it in, but he does make a hash of it. You're right, the big moment in the final seconds of the 90 when Maeda goes through, those are those big moments that Jimmy Thalene's probably standing with his hands in his pockets thinking, please get away with us, and they did.
Now here is an unfamiliar sight at Hampden. Callum McGregor, he's climbed the stairs before, but not to pick up a runners-up medal. A quick glance at the Scottish Cup, which has red and white ribbons on it. He's picked this up 6 times in his career. Everyone thought it would be 7, but not today. The red and white ribbons waiting for Aberdeen to get their hands on it. The runners-up medals might seem a lot to some people, Mark. If you're a small club and you get a runners-up medal, you'll cherish it, and you got close. This will mean absolutely nothing to these Celtic players.
No, they've got that much silverware that this is no consolation prize for them. I very much doubt that anybody will be keeping theirs. And I just look to the right, and for all the achievements of this team and all their success, I think you're right. It was always going to come a day that was going to happen, that they were going to lose a final, but the stadium is clear. There's a scattering of Celtic fans that have actually stayed behind to applaud their team, recognising that it has been a long, hard season. I get this sheer disappointment in amongst the fans and the team, but there is some fans who have stayed behind just to show their appreciation. It's a hard one. You need to suck it up. I've stood there with a runners-up medal, and I know how that feels for these Celtic players, but it's the first time for many of them.
But by stark contrast, a really different feeling for these Aberdeen players, because they know this is about to be their moment. Dimitar Mitov and Kevin Nisbet were poised. They look eager. They're desperate to get up those stairs and get their hands on their medals. Then, of course, the trophy presentation area already set up on the pitch, and it will be party time. This is torture for these Celtic players because they are not used to this. Callum McGregor offering a half-hearted applause. I don't even know who he's applauding really, because no one's on the stairs yet. He looks shell-shocked by this, Gordon Dalziel.
Yeah, he'll be feeling it most. Look, obviously Alistair Johnston missed a penalty kick as well, but he took the responsibility. He's the captain. He led the way. First penalty kick's an important one. It's got to get in the back of the net. Puts the pressure on the next Aberdeen penalty kick taker. But great save. He misses a penalty, and all of a sudden you've got to say all credit to Aberdeen. Penalty kicks, Absolutely brilliant they were.
Always got a bit of sympathy, Mark, because this is where the lottery element comes in. If Mitov goes the other way, there is nothing wrong with McGregor's penalty. However, when he does go right, it's a very good height for the keeper. It's not got that real direction on it, and it then has to go down as a poor penalty.
It's a poor penalty, no doubt about it. Right height, right pace, poor penalty. Looked tired, but so did so many other. As Aberdeen players come up, and fair play to the Celtic staff and full team, they are applauding them. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, Jack McKenzie, what a week he's had, of course, on the receiving end of a horrible incident with the chair thrown from his own fans at Tannadice, and now he goes up to pick up a Scottish Cup winners medal. Dimitar Mitov had his moment, 2 moments in fact, 2 saves in the shootout. He was a St Johnstone goalkeeper last season. Talk about making the right move. His former club end the season out of the top flight. He ends it as a Scottish Cup winner. There weren't many dazzling displays in the Aberdeen team today, but it was all about the heart, the grit, the determination. How many times did they throw themselves in front of Celtic shots from the edge of the box? Jensen looked like his legs had fallen off about 40 minutes before the end, and yet still he plugged away. A really brilliant effort, and waiting behind them all is Graham Shinney. 10 years exactly since he, as a young player, got his hands on this trophy as part of that Inverness Cally Thistle squad, and this time he will do it as captain of Aberdeen. What a moment for him, what a moment for this club, what a moment for that city. A one club city, of course, means so much to everyone who's made the trip down and those who've stayed at home. And Graham Shinney lofts the oldest trophy in world football into the sky. You can see what it means to the Aberdeen fans. This is more than they could possibly have dreamed of when they made the journey down to Glasgow this afternoon, and this party will last all night and then some.
Oh yeah, and deservedly so. Listen, they've waited a long time. They came here, as I said, at 2 o'clock. They came here with nothing but hope, and they've left with the Scottish Cup. So they're entitled to enjoy every minute of it, every bit of tonight, and the coming days ahead. Obviously, Aberdeen will be absolutely packed, waiting for that team to arrive to just show them how much they're so gratified to the fact of what they've done for the city today. Look, they fought very hard for it. They deserve it.
They've had to do it the hard way as well. You think how they came through the semi-final, going the distance and getting the winner in extra time, and then the remaining games after the split, and they've been awful, there's no doubt about it. Go back to last week when they're at Tannadice and all the negativity surrounding that, and rightly so. The fans were that frustrated by the end of the season, and there's no excuse for that at all, but you could see the frustration. So it was up to these Aberdeen players to come out and fix that connection between the fans themselves and Jimmy Thelin, and I thought the players gave him absolutely everything. I spoke about it before the game. There is no game next week. They are on their holidays. It was important that they gave everything and didn't leave anything behind. They certainly did that.
OK, we're here for another 10-15 minutes or so. A bit of a change to the schedule, of course. Don't worry, the GBX isn't far away, but the party is going like a fair here at Hampden. Let's go to the phone lines on 0141 951 1025. Martin is there. How are you, Martin?
Fine, thanks. Bit sick watching that.
Yeah, I mean, talk to us what that feels like, Martin. Just simply not used to this feeling.
Aye, I know, but see, Ida, Engels, Kuhn, Yang, and especially Bernardo, absolute useless. I hope Atalanta come for Engels. When's he ever had a good game for Celtic?
Well, Mark Wilson, it would hard to imagine it would be the last appearance for an £11 million player who, was part of a double-winning team and played in the Champions League. However, if you want to talk about today, then I can understand Martin's anger.
Yeah, poor performance. That shows he was withdrawn. Was that about 60-odd minutes, 65 minutes? And at that time, I thought he could have taken Bernardo or Engels off. Both of them didn't really do anything. Engels had to post, but that was about it. He expects so much more from him. But you could have labelled that the majority of Celtic players today. Bernardo, Look, Bernardo is one who I think flatters to deceive. I think he has a couple of good games. He's nice technically, but does he really do enough in a game to grab the game by the scruff of the neck like a Hatate does? I don't think so. I think he's a nice footballer, but I don't know if he's going to take Celtic to the next level. Engels, look, scattergun approach is going to come out, but I think Engels will be good enough. He just didn't play well today. And look, the others didn't either. Did Maeda, player of the year, did he do enough today? Hardly see. He looked tired, by the way.
Yeah.
He did look tired.
Yeah, he did. And I agree with you, Mark. I don't think you can look at that Celtic team today and many get pass marks. I would probably say Callum McGregor, I thought, dominated the ball, and Aberdeen let him do that, and obviously he's a villain at the end and misses a penalty kick. But you get through that full team, they were all sort of a below par. They were off it today. They weren't as sharp. You look at the middle of the park, they didn't dominate. Engels, Bernardo weren't there. Maeda, Kuhn, Ada never really kicked the ball, never get involved in it. Look, it's been a bad day. Schmeichel makes a terrible mistake, gives Aberdeen the lifeline. But let's get away from all that. They've won the double. They've been great in the Champions League. They've been entertaining. They've scored goals for fun. They've come up against a team today that just fought as hard as they can, and they've got their reward for it.
Look, it's one game, it's cup football, Martin, but has today maybe opened your eyes to some elements of the Celtic team that you're not happy with going forward?
Yes, the last two games against St Mirren and again today against Aberdeen, they haven't even scored a last minute goal last week with Jamesy Forrest. Couldn't break them down and couldn't break Aberdeen down today. A lot needs to change, I think.
I suppose in isolation again today, Mark, Celtic kind of got what they deserved, if you like, because you take it to penalties, and that's the chance you take. The real frustration will surely come from over the piece. Celtic probably should have been disappointing, but seen this out at 1-0. You know, a disappointing Celtic performance can still end in a 1-0. The goal they lose is calamitous, and that leads you to penalties.
Yeah, of course, they should have had more than enough. And particularly the way Aberdeen were playing as well. It just looked like there was no threat. I know Aberdeen make the changes, and all of a sudden that changes slightly. But could he have defended the cross better? Of course he could have stopped the cross, could have gotten the line of the cross. Was it maybe Taylor that was out there? Obviously Schmeichel should do better, so there's loads to unpick from that. But I wonder how much Jimmy Thelin looked at Stephen Robinson's tactics last week and analysed that five at the back and how little Celtic created within that. And it needed James Forrest last week to come on and eliminate a few opponents for Celtic to start clicking into place. I think actually that was a huge blow when Forrest, you know, went down looked like a hamstring injury. But I thought he looked the only one for Celtic that could actually dribble and go past somebody.
See when you ball it down, Gordon, Aberdeen came here with a different formation this afternoon, right? They came to frustrate Celtic, and it certainly worked. But then when Celtic get the goal, you think, right, can they hang in? And they did, and they were waiting for that little bit of a break, and they got it, and Celtic gifted them.
Let's ask the guys in the studio, Hugh and Scott, what they make of Martin's disappointment.
I think Martin's entirely entitled to his disappointment. There are two sides to every story in a cup final. To Aberdeen, the spoils, and to Aberdeen, the credit. And when the chips were down, 4 immaculate penalties. For Celtic, it's a watershed moment because Martin on the line has seen right through it all. There's no strength and depth there. It's a myth. And I do think there was an element of fate about it today. I kept on saying if it can go wrong, it has gone wrong for Celtic. But Bernardo, a myth. Yang, Kuhn, Engels, not enough on the big occasions like this. And Brendan Rodgers has to negotiate the Champions League. The summer will be very busy for Celtic because he'll need to speak to Dermot Desmond. This squad was exposed today as not being anywhere near good enough. Absolutely their worst performance of the season. And from early on you could see that Celtic were going to finish runners-up, Scott.
Yeah, listen, it was such an underwhelming performance for Celtic. Obviously everything there to go and make history, to do another treble, and they just didn't turn up. They lacked urgency. When they got to the final third, they looked devoid of any ideas. I think obviously looking at Bernardo and Engels playing in the positions where you want to go and create, I actually think you see the real value of how good a player Rio Hatate is. And when he's out of the team and guys come in and they're wanting to fight for their jersey to be a starter in this Celtic team, I thought both of them They let themselves down today. I don't think they really took the game by the scruff of the neck and wanted to be the difference, and I think that's the thing that will really frustrate Brendan Rodgers, because when you're at a club at Celtic and you're not in the starting lineup, when you get that chance you need to be ready. And today I felt when Bernardo came on, when he started the game, he just didn't have any impact in the game whatsoever.
I think on a personal level Brendan Rodgers will feel severely let down by his players. You know, that the weight of history was on Celtic's shoulders and they collapsed under the strain of it all.
Thank you very much to Martin for his thoughts. What about Scott on the other line? Scott, how would you sum up how that feels for you today?
Where do you start with that performance today? For the manager's substitutions and tactics, from asking a fullback to take the most pressured penalty kick of all the penalty kicks, and the captain letting us down, and I'm not going to slag in. But can I say first one thing? Well done to Aberdeen. They came with a game plan. The game plan worked. Keep themselves in the game as long as they could. Make substitutions at the right time, and that's exactly what they've done. And all their penalty kicks were cracking. But my biggest moan is about the manager. Last week we played Aberdeen at Pittodrie. With 15 minutes to go, he decides to bring on Rio Hatate, who's played every game of the season. Brings him on, the guy gets injured. Rio Hatate in that team today would have made a difference. 100% he would have made a difference, because he always does. He plays the killer pass. I think it was Scott Allan just said there now that we lacked incisiveness in the last third. 100% Rio Hatate would have made a difference. And I felt he threw young Johnny Kenny under the bus today as well. That boy's had one start all season. Brought him back in January, left him sitting on the bench. Then he throws him into a penalty shootout. I think his substitutions he took off, every single player he took off were all penalty takers. James Forrest went off injured. Bernardo's a penalty taker with us and his country. So's Ida and so's Engels. And we were left with two guys basically taking the last of 3 penalties. With Alistair Johnson's never a penalty taker, and young Johnny Kenny left with a lot of pressure. I'm disgusted with the manager, if I'm being honest.
See, to be fair on a couple of those points, Callum McGregor would have still taken a penalty, and he missed his. Johnny Kenny, who was thrown under the bus, scored his. Engels, Bernardo, and forgive me, Ida, the other one you mentioned, those guys were taken off miles before penalties because they weren't playing well enough.
But do you not think that when it comes to penalty kicks and extra time that you need to try and keep at least one of them on the pitch?
Yeah, but at that point, Mark Wilson, penalties...
He's not even thinking about penalties
at
that point.
I'd see the point. See if there's 5 minutes left in extra time, you take Adam Ida and Arne Engels off, fine.
Of course.
But Brendan Rodgers made the change to try and go and win the game 2-0, basically.
Well, he did. He needed an injection of life, really, about the side in the second half. And look, it came at a funny time for me, because Engels did just strike the post, and you thought, OK, the traffic's going in that direction again, and he makes the changes. But... did he need to make 3 at that time?
It baffled me.
I get they were disappointing.
It baffled me. Listen, I was crying out like probably every Celtic fan. Forrest had to come on the pitch, right? Kuhn was offered nothing. But when I seen him making 3, look, see when you look at it, Celtic fans have got to get the scattergun out for their team, because they had the treble in the bag. They're so disappointed. They had the treble in the bag until they gifted Aberdeen the goal. Aberdeen never looked like we were going to score here. And all of a sudden, Schmeichel makes the biggest blunder. I know what Mark's saying, it's a good ball in, but the quality of Schmeichel, he can't put that in the back of his own net. And all of a sudden gives Aberdeen that lifeline. They hung in there, they worked it their hard as they possibly could, went to penalties, took their chance, and they've now got Scottish Cup.
Scott, does this put a different complexion on the season overall for you?
It's still a good season. Still a good season to win 2 trophies. Can I make one quick point and I'll disappear and let you go on with your show? That's how many games is that now that we've been leading in a cup final or semi-finals or other games and lost a game, lost a goal? We done it to Aberdeen last season twice, and we done it to Rangers in the League Cup earlier in the season as well. This is supposed to be what I keep hearing, this top-level manager. Top-level managers don't let their teams lose goals in semi-finals and finals, the last kick of the ball. Sorry, but they don't.
But listen, the manager always takes the can. But if we're serious question, what does Brendan Rodgers do about the goal Celtic conceded? Scott says managers don't let their teams concede. Kasper Schmeichel has pulled off one of the worst mistakes you'll see of the season. The manager can't do anything about that. Now, can he do something about his substitutions? Yes, or loads of other things. But the notion that the manager doesn't let the team concede a goal, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You're right in that. The manager can't make the decisions. He will be looking at Schmeichel and thinking, you probably won't make that mistake ever again in his career. It just happened. It was one of those freak mistakes. I listened to Hugh in the studio. I totally agree with something. It's the first time I've looked at Celtic when they lost those key players that they look not as strong as everybody thinks as a squad.
Well, the party is going to go on for quite some time. If you would sum up your thoughts on it quickly, Hugh Keevins.
Well, my thoughts on it are that Aberdeen deserve the credit. They've had a horrible season, but on the final day they came through, and the 4 immaculate penalties won them the cup. For Celtic, I do maintain it's a watershed moment. The manager is going to get unjustifiable stick from supporters, but the squad is nowhere near good enough for next season, and when Rangers under a new manager come after them, that squad will not do.
History has been made at Hampden, Aberdeen getting their hands on the Scottish Cup for the first time since 1990. What an afternoon for them, not to be for Celtic. No treble this year, a rare feeling of defeat and disappointment in this competition. We will be back Monday night from 6 o'clock to pour over it all. Thanks for listening.
The Clyde One Super Scoreboard Podcast with Trywire.com. Save like a world-class keeper. Get a great price on your next car.
At Barclays, we run programs that help communities across the UK. Whether you're a young person gaining skills to enter the workplace, a small business trying to grow and find its place in the modern world, or a girl in school building confidence on and off the pitch through football. We believe everyone deserves to fly. Search Barclays Communities to find out more. Barclays, here for every goal.